eminent guest.
Hello, good afternoon. Rajan this side.
Good afternoon, Rajan sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi.
Good afternoon, sir.
Is my voice clear?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I just want to test a screen share. Is it possible? Can I do it right now?
So right now my screen is shared. There is no issue. If you just when I stop the share, you can share it, test it.
अमिताभ जी प्लीज चेक कर लीजिए एक बार अनशेयर कीजिए स्क्रीन
एक बार कर लेते हैं. प्रेजेंटेशन डिस्प्ले करना है मेरे को.
सर आप डेस्कटॉप में पीपीटी को सिलेक्ट कर लीजिए, इसको मिनिमाइज कर लीजिए अपने ब्राउजर को. डेस्कटॉप में चल जाइए.
जस्ट अ मिनट. प्रेजेंटेशन खोल लूं मैं?
हाँ खोलिए सर. सर हम लोग को दिख रहा है प्रेजेंटेशन.
यस स्क्रीन इज विजिबल सर.
ओके थैंक यू.
बस अगर हो सके तो तब फुल स्क्रीन कर लीजिएगा. ठीक सर.
ओके ठीक है.
तो स्टॉप शेयर कर देंगे.
फुल स्क्रीन जस्ट अ मिनट. या डन. थैंक यू.
सर अभी स्टॉप शेयरिंग कर देंगे.
Hi Arjun ji. Hi Utkarsh.
Hi.
So welcome.
Hey, hi. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, you are audible.
All right, thank you.
Anupam sir, we can start now.
Ria, you can start. Ria, you can start. Anchors can start.
Okay, sir.
So am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Aditya.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I, Aditya Dhanraj, on behalf of Jaipuria Institute of Management, Lucknow, welcome you all to annual IT and Operations Conclave on the theme Creating and Sustaining the IT Operations and Analytics Edge. The conclave is an attempt to discuss the relevance and future challenges of sustaining and developing ITOA, not only for large businesses, but also for small individuals and family-run businesses. The entire ecosystems are in transition of full dependence on information technology-based platform that can help them in both achieving high profits and sustainability. We have with us today some eminent speakers who will enlighten us with this theme and provide us with some experience-based learning. We are pleased to welcome them. I welcome chief guest for the occasion, Professor Manoj K. Tiwari. He needs no introduction, but few words about his achievements. He is Director, National Institute of Industrial Engineering, NITIE, Mumbai. He was a professor with higher academic grade in Department of Industrial and System Engineering at Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, and currently online for 5 years. As a researcher, he is working in the domain of manufacturing system and supply chain management. His research and teaching interests are in modeling the manufacturing processes and operation analysis in supply chain networks. Optimization, simulation, and computational intelligence are the main techniques adopted by Professor Tiwari to automate the decision support system for complex and large-scale problems in manufacturing and logistics system. He has published more than 320 papers in the international journals of repute, and he has been ranked as one top 100 researchers across the world. Welcome, sir. Mr. Rajan Bhandari, keynote speaker for the occasion, is Chief Executive Officer at Hitachi MGRM Limited, Gurgaon. Mr. Rajan Bhandari is an accomplished leader with domestic and international experience in business establishment, P&L, oversight, multi-channel products, service sales, and marketing. Welcome, sir. Now, I would like to introduce Mr. Naveen Singh, who would be the part of the panel discussion. Mr. Naveen Singh is a retail operations specialist, category head, homeware at Big Bazaar. He is a seasoned retailer with 20 years of experience in store operations, customer service, store design, project management, property acquisitions, and more. His specialties include retail and operations, budgeting, P&L management, new store rollout, training and development, profit center operations, inventory management, fashion retail, MIS implementation, to name a few. Welcome, sir. I would like to introduce Mr. Bhaskar Roy, who is part of the panel discussion. Mr. Bhaskar Roy is Vice President at Genpact and Analytics Leader. Mr. Bhaskar Roy is a seasoned professional with more than 22 years of diverse experience in managing large business processes in the domain of analytics and data science, consulting, and intelligence operations. His key expertise area includes sales and marketing, commercial and pricing analytics, advanced analytics, including machine learning and artificial intelligence, Six Sigma for driving digital operations and process transformation. Welcome, sir.
Introducing Mr. Utkarsh Mishra, one of our panel member, Innovation, Digital Transformation and Design Thinking Practitioner at DCB Bank. Mr. Utkarsh Mishra helps brand understand the importance of the experience innovation program delivery. His curiosity towards end user touchpoints and psyche has led to constructive collaborations with the brands to drive their business strategies. In DCB Bank, he binds together the DT principles with the digital world, keeping in mind the needs of the business. We will welcome you, sir. Introducing Mr. Arjun Kalsy, panelist for the day. He is Vice President Growth, Blockchain and Ethereum. Mr. Arjun Kalsy is a business person by training, but an engineer by heart. He enjoys problem solving and working with cutting edge technology. His current objective is to help blockchain developers build for scalability and great user experience with the help of Polygon's Layer 2 scaling solution. Welcome, sir. I would now like to invite Dr. Kavita Pathak, Director, Jaipuria Institute of Management, Lucknow, to welcome our distinguished guest with a green certificate.
Good afternoon, esteemed panelists, and it's an extreme privilege to invite Amitabh to kindly present the green certificates, display them in We are very pleased and honored. Professor Manoj Tiwari ji has joined us as a chief guest today. He has been previously associated and has been guiding force for the campus. Thank you so much that you could take time out to address this conclave. Next up, I would request Rajan Bhandariwho, warm welcome to you. And we are going to be planting a tree in your name, which is GIS marked. So you could, through the mail, track the progress of that sapling that's going to be planted in your name. Next up, Mr. Naveen Singh, we are very privileged and happy to have you in our midst. And like our esteemed chief guest and Mr. Rajan, we are also going to be planting a sapling in your name in the Sundarban National Park. And it's going to be your tree and you're adding to the green planet. Next, Shri Bhaskar Roy. Bhaskar ji, warm welcome from Jaipuria, Lucknow. And we are privileged to have you with us. And we look forward to what you have to say to us, as well as congratulations for adding to the greenery in the planet Earth. Next, Shri Utkarsh Mishra. Utkarshi, warm welcome. And this tree is in your name, somewhere in West Bengal. And we look forward to hearing your views on the theme of the conclave. And last but not the least is Mr. Arjun Kalsy. And Arjunji, once again, a warm welcome. This green celebration of your presence with us, all of you distinguished and esteemed speakers this afternoon. This is one of our recent ways of cutting the floral destruction and adding to the greenery of the planet. And this is what we have adopted for the last 2 years, and we've been doing it. Across campuses, we would have planted approximately maybe 2,000 plus trees in this manner in last 2 years' time. Priya, would you wish me to speak as well?
I would now like to request Director, Jaipuria Institute of Management, Lucknow, Dr. Kavita Pathak, to deliver the welcome address.
So, distinguished chief guest, Shri Manoj Kumar Tiwari ji, Rajan ji, Naveen ji, Bhaskar ji, Utkarsh ji, Arjun ji, my own conveners of this conclave, Dr. Anupam Saxena and Dr. Preetam Suman, the deans in the audience, faculty members, staff, and my dear students. It's like, I don't know, I've never felt this scared ever before in my life, being thrown in the midst of highly technical people to be opening the welcome address of a very, very complicated topic, which I had to actually Google out and to see what to speak on. But fortunately for me, this was lying on my table. This was the issue of HBR, and this HBR issue is creating competitive advantage through data. I've been trying to read it up. I picked it up this morning, and I thought let me just skim through it. I applaud this entire fraternity of the panelists sitting here this afternoon. You are co-creating a future full of possibilities, but also a future whose algorithms and whose complicated architecture is beyond the realm of understanding of common people who do commonly do business on common platforms. So there was this gentleman in management thought, we called him Werner Felt, and he gave the concept of every organization owning resources which are very rare, inimitable. So these rare and inimitable resources are organically curated within the organization, and these are the resources on which is nested the USP and the competitive advantage of a particular organization. For a long time, marketing organizations and all kind of entities created this RIN configuration around their very skilled sales force or very unique product technology features, or around their uniquely configured assembly lines. I really do not know. There are multiple aspects on which organizations have enjoyed this advantage of being very rare and inimitable and owning those resources. What's happening of late in I think the post-pandemic or even in the pre-pandemic world, and I'm speaking, pardon me for speaking as a simpleton who does not understand your domain inside out, who's taking an outsider's perspective and take on the theme of this conclave. when we view business and ask ourselves the important question, going forward in next 10 years, what is going to give me my competitive advantage? But more important, what is going to ensure that I sustain it for long term? Definitely, all of the principles of doing business, you must have a saleable idea or a product, pitch it to the right target market, as we say in marketing, configure resources within the organization so that competitiveness prevails. But there is this very important end of the entire process of putting my business proposition forward, where people like you have entered, and you've entered very strongly. You are adding complexity, you're adding layer, you are adding immense powerful potential of growing my business and scaling it up overnight. And but the problem is that the community of people who have ownership of this kind of information is limited. It is at times residing outside an organization. So there are experts whose expertise I need to exploit in order to create very rare and inimitable advantage for myself in the marketplace. I find this a little paradoxical. Anything which can be shelved off, anything which can be packaged, and anything which can be retailed to n number of clients across organizations can rarely be harvested or labeled as a critical or a unique advantage of one single organization. So I do not know, I leave it to this distinguished and esteemed panel to think of, would the staff function of advising the line function become more important, more relevant in the days to come? What I read in terms of data-based competitive advantage are 2 or 3 questions that I'm also leaving for this very august panel to take at some point in time. It says that there are return to scale, the kind of return to scale that we can possibly see in a ITOA setup was previously in an organic world very, very difficult to conceive. It can happen that you could scale up in your business in no time. The possibilities of scaling up are exciting, but the associated challenges of scaling up are scary. That's what the thought leaders say that. Second, these are the second issue that comes. It says, and I'm reading straight what I wrote here. It says that these possibilities of whether it's AI, ML, analytics, operations interventions is bound to create social turbulence resulting from market concentration, dislocation, and increased inequalities. So when we say sustained competitive advantage using these interfaces, a very responsible and a very careful look is required by people who are owning the domain, that what we offer is not only commercially relevant and viable, but it is also socially sustainable in the long term. And lastly, I think a very relevant platform, a relevant juncture in history where regulators are at their wits' end. The regulatory mechanisms are at their wits' end in trying to regulate a domain that is growing by leaps and bounds. So by the time they develop understanding of one corner of that, it's already grown in another direction. So regulatory mechanisms for enforcing sustainability part of this competitive advantage is again a very open area. I do not know, I'm not a technical person, and in front of legends like Professor Tiwari, I'll be wasting my words if I were to speak anything further on it. What I present to you and what I put on the table is a professor of marketing's understanding, maybe an academic's inquiry, or somebody who tries to investigate business a bit, my own vision. I'm delighted that such a wonderful panel has congregated today and led by our eminent chief guest. I am hungry to hear you speak. I'm hungry to get pearls of wisdom. So thank you so much. It's an honor and a pleasure to be in your midst. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
It is not the strongest of the species that survives, not the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. With these words, I would now like to invite the convener of this conclave and our area chair, Operation and Decision Sciences, Dr. Anupam Saxena, to introduce the theme of the conclave.
Thank you, Ria. A very good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of IT Operations and Analytics area, I feel immense pleasure to see this August gathering, although not physically, but in a very safe and virus-free mode. This itself is the strength of IT and operations, that despite being seated hundreds of kilometers apart, we can share each other's point of view and deliberate on opportunities and challenges in any arena possible. We should be thankful to the evolution IT operations and analytics has made in changing the paradigm of human expression. Inspired by this fast growing and impact creating domain, our institute decided that we should deliberate on the latest trends in creating and sustaining this domain and discuss on what are the possible challenges as well as how wide the opportunities for growth in this profession exist. Therefore, it was felt that a conclave with eminent panelists and most profound academicians is the best platform for reflecting on the topic of creating and sustaining ITOA edge. I am convinced that this conclave is going to give us broad as well as a niche perspective as well as niche perspective related to various dimensions of ITOA, and the speeches and discussions which are going to take place over here will not only directly address latest research trends, industry trends, academic requirements and industry requirements, but will also give us some minute key points which will last long in the minds of aspiring professionals in this arena. This conclave is an attempt to bridge the gap between pure academic understanding of IT operations and analytics concepts with industry and practical application-oriented point of view. I am grateful to all the alumni, guests from the corporate and academia, and all my fellow colleagues for being part of this conclave and sparing their valuable time for this conclave. I'm sure the panel discussion and speeches by distinguished speakers is going to create a deeper impact on our thoughts and will also change the way we perceive all these three domains. With this note, I would like to conclude my theme initiation. Thank you, Ria.
Thank you, sir. Moving forward with the purpose of this conclave, I would now like to request our keynote speaker, Mr. Rajan Bhandari. Now, I would request sir to kindly address us.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Right. First of all, really want to thank Jaipuria Institute of Management for inviting me. It's really an honor to be part of a great institution. And I think as a society, on a global scale, India is really making a lot of impact. And it's all thanks to great institutions like yours, where we are creating such a great talent pool, which is really creating waves in this country as well as the complete global ecosystem. So I have just created some small deck, which I just wanted to speak to you on that in terms of the topic what we have shared, which is IT operational and analytics part of it. And what is traditional and what is something which is happening now and what is going to happen. I just want to throw certain areas open to you just as a thought process. Right. I'll just share a screen. Just a minute. Is my screen visible? Hello?
No, sir, it's not visible.
No, sir, it wasn't not visible.
Start it up like this. So basically, if we ask today, what are the challenges in the IT industry? The IT industry typically is facing a challenges in terms of technology skills. Right. So much of technology is available today that finding out a right skill is really a challenge. Second is, with so much of integration going around, the complexity of the integration itself is the biggest challenge today as an IT industry, which is seeing. Now, again, as we said, that return to scale, sustainability itself is another biggest challenge. And today it's important to build up something which we can sustain. And nevertheless, the last aspect today in this whole IT world is that the cash flows scenarios are really shrinking the organizations. And we are all finding it out an innovative way of ensuring our cash flows are positive and how do we cater to our overall ecosystem of our cash flows. Now, from that perspective, what else is required? And today, IT business requirements from a business partners, what are we looking at? What is the industry looking at? We're really looking at something which is innovative in execution, which is really sustainable, definitely should have a multi-domain experience, a financial stability, an original solution towards solving a social original problems. And yes, when we're talking about IT operations, something which we can easily manage and remote service ecosystem can be provided so that it can be managed from anywhere, which today in our world, we call it as remote service management ecosystem, IT operation management ecosystem. So in order to meet the challenges of current market, which is really changing a lot and very fast, becoming very, very competitive, the only thing which has taken a central stage is nothing but an innovation, agility at work, so that how can we keep ourselves ahead of the curve. In these domains, some of the parameters which are really fundamentally on the top are something which is strong user experience environment which we can create and give, something which is very strong and robust in terms of financial modeling environment. Business strategies definitely are taking a different shape altogether in terms of organic and inorganic growths. And technology adoption are becoming very fast, but it is becoming very agile and very different in nature. These are no more traditional way of looking at an IT today. Now, our current society is nothing but a society of digital natives. And with all this COVID and all environment, somewhere down the line, we have seen that a young generation of kids as young as 5 years old now are online hooked. So we can very well call them as a digital native. And for all of us, since we are doing all this conference, all remotely, everything is nothing but today, IT is become a backbone. And we all are now by design a digital natives. So what was traditional IT? Traditional IT was nothing, but it was an application layer which solves our normal day-to-day functions like HR function, ERP function, manufacturing, supply chain function, blah, blah. Those things. A typical tons and tons of iron lying in the data center or the server rooms, which were supporting all these applications, and good amount of people required to manage those application and infrastructure. That used to be traditional IT. And to manage whole of this ecosystem, we used to call ourselves as all help desk ecosystem or IT operation system. We used to call it as IT operational and management system. That used to be the scenario. And we were predicting that the scenario would sustain till 2024. But unfortunately, COVID happened and things changed. And trust me, last 1 year, the kind of changes which we are seeing in the market is totally different. So there's nothing called traditional IT. It is only one thing today, which is called as digital ecosystem. And in the digital ecosystem, there's only one. The major aspects of a digital ecosystem is analytics, a user experience. The traditional applications are gone. Now it has been taken away by taking the new thing which has come up and replaced everything is utility-based applications. The typical IT hardware is gone. Now what we call ourselves today in an overall ecosystem is social infrastructure. Today, whether we go to parking, we go to lifts, we go to building, we go to we're trying managing our own house also through automations and an app. All these ecosystems which are typically earlier IT ecosystem like server storage and all are getting replaced and getting integrated as a part of social infrastructure, and which is becoming a need of the hour. Today we know that we don't need to pay any road tax or any this what we say is toll tax and all. This all digitally taken care of. So what is that? It's nothing but at the behind, it's all a digital ecosystem. And the beauty of this new digital ecosystem, it learns automatically. So that's what an AI engine has been fed inside. A behavioral pattern are being taken care by the machine. Machine understands that how I'm interacting with my laptop, how I'm interacting with my ecosystem or applications, what is that my needs are, what are the applications I'm searching, and it throws automatically. So this means our IT ecosystem are learning ourselves like anything. And this whole environment, the most important aspect is our life can be on a standstill if the complete digital ecosystem doesn't operate 24/7. And for that, what's majorly required is a strong, robust, digitally managed ecosystem of IT operation. Now, today we call it a digital operation system. It's no more an IT operational management typical scenarios. And our applications understand how to manage our applications. So this is a new environment altogether, which is emerged out, which is a digital ecosystem. And in this, yes, analytics plays a major role because you have to be ahead of the curve. You have to ensure that the needs of the society are being fed properly. And we have to upgrade and update ourselves regularly. And I think this is a typical example you guys might be seeing in our day-to-day operations of any mobile apps or anything which we see an update happening. So it's all about an analytics which is going at the end. And the other aspect today is, see, while it's important for me to convey to you, because point in time you guys will be in the market to understand what is good for you, how you want to shape it up yourself. The typical earlier IT market, which was an infrastructure market, is shrinking. And it has been getting changed by a utility-based infrastructure like clouds. The applications again are shrinking and becoming into utility-based apps. So what is more important today, which has become a central of everything, is a data and data maturity. And how our business process transformations ensure a proper data maturity happens. That's what our digital operations are running today to ensure to get the right output. And then integrating all these things with our informations is something which is really becoming the talk of the town today. Because at the end of the day, we all want to analyze for a better growth. And till the time we have an information integration, we cannot get a proper analytic or digital user experience kind of an environment. So when today we are talking about digital user experience, what are we talking? We are talking about right insight, ease to use, ease to scale. So these are the things we are talking. And today, by default, a native our society expectation is also becoming like this. We really want something very, very simple. We really want something which is very insightful and which is easy to handle. And this is all about user experience. And today, all this or complete our digital operations are getting focused towards that. So this is what in industry things are going on. And we definitely see a larger growth in times to come for people into data science, into user experience environment, into apps environment. So these are something which are very important. Today, operational technologies are getting merged with an IT. That's why it's an integrated systems which are coming up. So traditional way of IT and operational technologies have actually merged. And this is what we were talking about. Industry 4.0, Society 5.0. So things are happening right now. And while I represent Hitachi MGRM as a CEO of the company, I see A lot of social infrastructure project, which today our government of India is throwing back onto us as an industry challenge, is all about creating a digital user experience for our society. And this is where the market is moving. Now, what are we as an organization doing different? I think I just wanted to throw some lights to you so that it can give you some insights. We're just trying to understand the needs of a human, a life cycle needs of a human, so that we can produce some products, some tools, or some services to cater to that. Because now the complete digital ecosystem needs only one thing: consumer at the front, customer at the front. So that's how the things are changing, and we are really investing a lot of dollars in terms of doing all these R&Ds to come and create and ensure a complete life cycle of a human from child till death has been digitally captured, digitally being managed from each and every aspect, from a birth of a child to his schools, to his college, to his job. How are we ensuring that we are managing the complete digital life of a person? Is that what we are just trying to do? And today, again, another thing which I used a word today as a social infrastructure is something which is becoming a more relevant in today's life. And that's what, as an organization, we're just trying to invest to see that we create some great technologies which can serve the society. I'll just give you a very small example. Today in a COVID, we know in a whole scenarios, testings, going to hospitals and all, people are scared. We don't want to do. So what we have done different, and again, it is all about a digital marriage and digital management. We just created a telemedicine device, appliance, integrate all the operational technology within IT technologies, and ensure anywhere in the world, a doctor can have an online examination of a patient. So these are the things which are going to drive the next generations and the needs in the IT market. And that's why I'm really proud that at Hitachi, we just talk that we are a partner of life to our society. So this is all from my side. Any questions?
Thank you so much, sir, for such inspiring thoughts.
I feel honored to invite the chief guest for the day, Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari, Director, National Institute of Industrial Engineering, Mumbai. Sir, I request you to kindly enlighten the audience with a few pearls of wisdom. Manoj, sir?
Just 1 minute, I'm sharing the slide.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Anupam, can you see my slide?
Yes, sir, it is coming.
Okay.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. So it's my pleasure to be part of this very eminent people's gathering, where they are going to discuss the IT operations in management, operations management, and it's really very pertinent topic for today's era, because of a lot of things are happening. which requires effective integration between the IT as well as other relevant disciplines of management, particularly operations, marketing, finance, etc. And I'm also very much thankful to the organizer, particularly the Jaipuria Institute of Management, Anupamji and Pritam, along with the authorities of this institute, director, for giving me this opportunity to be with you. And now, directly, I want to discuss something which we prepared since last 4 or 5 days, because when Anupamji told me that something to be done, so we thought that let us collect some of the recent information to share with the participants as well as the students if they are attending. So, as you can see that IT operations, where a lot of work pertaining to the IT operation analytics is being taught. So in this approach, what is happening actually, if you see, there are a lot of ways to eradicate and do away with the traditional way of storage of data and data interactions, data transactions actually. So because of that, we have now the multiple sources of getting the data, say for example, log, agent, wire data, and they are able to support a lot of proactive and data-driven operations with clear and contextualized operational intelligence. And if you go by the recent report of Gartner, it says that this ITOA market size is going to grow from US 9.3 billion in 2020 to 45.1 billion by 2025. That is a CAGR of 37.2%. So you can see that the kind of volume it is going to engulf. And then taxonomies, you can see that we are going to describe what are there under the IOTA. They are all comprising the, you can say, the different kind of data sets for driving the ITO operations. The machine data, that is self-reported information, agent data, that is, you can say, then behavior-related data like synthetic data and wire data. So all these things, they are linked with the different kind of analytics and decision-making operations. And based on this, and I just like to cite that how this ITOA can enhance the different IT operations. So a lot of reports are here I have cited, like McKinsey Global Institute report that says that predicting and analysis of the large data sets to become an integral part of the competition. And also similar kind of report of the age of analytics that is competing in the data-driven world. And also the Gartner has already mentioned that the ITOA technologies will change how the professional interactions and other disciplines may come closer to each other. And that way, the control and visibility of network will be additional issues. So keeping that in mind, as you can see that analytics of this data-driven things, just 1 minute. Here, please, what is that? This is because of this, we're not able to read what is that. This covering. We are able to clear? No. Only anyway.
We can escape and we can start. You can again share your screen. You can do it from here.
Yeah. So now coming to the analytics maturity with respect to data to decision, it's very interesting discussion. You can see here we go by, say for example, how the discovery of the data is there from the given information that we value the what exists in the data, and then how it is embedded, that is how do you embed data analytics into this particular information set of the organization. And then the question is that whether you trust the data or not. And then we go to the how this trust that you mentioned, you describe what kind of operations going to handle, and then prediction based on this particular analysis and information. And then finally we optimize, and then we find out how to develop the insight with respect to this information. Just let me tell you, 3 days before a discussion that we are having on a project actually that we are dealing with a very powerful uh, company of manufacturing that deals with a lot of sophisticated items for the medical equipment as well as for the chemical companies, which are very prone to the leakage of the chemicals and gases. So they are making very sophisticated items. They are in Bombay only. So somehow they gave us a project that they have a lot of data and they want to know that how very useful and credible information they can get for implementation. So Anupam, I just want to share with you that they are handling in a year around 9,000 orders. And out of this 9,000 orders, they are making something around 15,000 or 16,000 products. And till now, they were not able to know that who are their main prime customers. Why? Because they're getting so much order and they're not able to see the prioritization. And accordingly, when we applied the different methods of this data analytics, particularly we applied the light gradient boosting method and then cleaning of data and time stamping for 2 months period. And then we noticed that out of all the customers, they have only 40% customers who are really giving the 90% order to them. So a company which is running from more than 25 years. So because of volume of the data, they were not able to analyze even such a simple operations, correct? So that shows that because of the volume and volumes of the data, they are not able to, information is plenty. They have almost all kind of login from ERP, login from everywhere, like this what I'm describing, but they do not have all this way of analyzing the data. So this diagram where analytics maturity, that is data to decision, is very important concept which one should keep in mind. So Anupam, I am audible to you or not?
Yes, sir. Very much audible, sir.
Okay, okay. Then why the people should go and invest particularly in the ITOA business? So as you can see, because of the kind environment it offers, like you can say that the proactive management may be very much interested in the several kind of information and hidden data that they are dealing. So you can see that such kind of support offers them, first of all, streamlining the information network. Then they have improved end user experience. Then they can easily map the behaviors of their end users and customers. They can reduce the mean time to resolve the problems. They can also boost resistance to the different kind of IT failures and IT challenges. And then they can speed up the detection of the many fraudulent payments, which are otherwise, you can say, abnormal events in most of the cases. So like this, and you can also see that this ITOA, in regards of the major industrial sectors, as you can see that IT, telecom, marketing, sales, and manufacturing, everywhere they are finding their huge applications. And then the field of this IT and systems management, you have seen that a lot of things are happening basically, how the AI oriented, that is artificial oriented cognitive operations are taking place, and how we are linking the analytics and machine learning with different kind of capabilities which are added with the IT and operations management tools. So that are bringing and leveraging a lot of new challenges to the companies. And these challenges are basically posing to have a major collaborations among the different segments, like say how the anomaly detection, root cause analysis, are happening in the midst of the data that are in the cloud, and then and what a useful information we are going to have for solving the problems. So the major challenges which we are having in this line is there are two basic approaches to solve this problem. One is the tool-driven IT prevents insight, and other is the big data approach actually. So here I just want to correct my things because whole things are not coming on the screen. So this is there something here. Can we do it by polarizing? Yeah. No problem. I think now we can see. No? This car, right? No? Okay. So I'm sorry that there's some disturbance because I was not able to completely link the approach of what we are going to present. So as you can see, this shift from tool-driven to data-driven ITs, they are required actually because the many of the volumes of the information which we are being handled from tool-driven to data-driven, they need to be properly understood. Say for example here, if you can see the suppose case of the retailer-based systems here, retail data sets are there, then customer behavior data sets are there, meteorological data sets are there, say regional income data sets are there, then demographic data sets are there. And based on that, we have to find out the extract the information, then index and store, then analyze and visualize. And then based on that, we can have business insights. Whereas in the tool-driven IT, this prevents the insight and agility like this. We have infrastructure monitoring, we have application performance, we have network performance, business process monitoring, web services monitoring, and then cloud monitoring, virtualization monitoring, packet capturing, log management, then database monitoring. So all these things, they are connected with the tool-driven IT. And here is the big data approach. So this way, you can say increasing complexity and the dynamic nature of the IT architecture is one of the key factors that is hindering market growth. And that is why you can see this ITO can be defined, described, and forecast very easily. The components, solutions, services, deployment mode, organizational size, end user, and particularly the region. And this increased focus on the adoption of this cloud-based ITOA solutions and proliferation of these huge amounts of IT operations data, they are going to drive the market growth. And based on that, I can see the key challenges for the Indian retailers. If you see, they have around the customer demanding high degree of personalization, found to be say 91% of global samples. They are members of very loyalty and reward kind of program. Then omni-channel touch points for the customers, they are around 46%. So these reports are based on the old data. There are more 2014 and 15. So this has grown up more actually. Then pricing of the single most important criteria influencing the customer's choice of retailer. That is the good returns policy, trust in the brand, and you can say good prices. And of course, there is a room for retailers to grab the leading innovator, like say delivery options, loyalty options, and in-store technologies. They also posing challenge to the many of the retailers. And based on that, now how the data things can play a role. So when we go for retail analytic framework, then you can easily find there are many kind of hybrid model that you can use, like time to value, time cost to ownership, access to the latest best practices, and control of the operations. And I can say there are many, this organic in-house, inorganic in-house, primarily outsourced, hybrid models. And in all these things, when you apply the analytics, you can see the machine, this merchandising analytics that talks about assortment planning, product placement, space allocation, and product adjacency. Whereas marketing analytics talk about promotion, pricing, personalization, and campaigns. Store operation analytics talk about workforce effectiveness, shrinkage, inventory, and other store performances. And supply chain analytics talks about logistics, demand forecasting, inventory, and supplier performance. About this particular supply chain analytics, recently we have invited the editor-in-chief of Management Science, Professor David Simchi Levy, at NITIE platform, and he runs a course for 10 weeks on the supply chain digitization and management. It was massively in what you call attractive course because more than 2,550 participants joined that course, and he has nicely elaborated each and every aspect that how we are going to have this supply chain analytics and digitization going to affect the performance of the chain actually. So here you can see there are, suppose you talk about advanced analytics and data and business analytics, then you can clearly see what are the different steps and operations to be done. That is, in advanced analytics, we have to analytics strategy and maturity benchmarking, then analytics platform as a service, advanced analytics solutions, then machine learning and AI analytics. Here we have to talk about the business intelligence and data management strategy, then ERP management, dashboards, and other reporting. So based on this, there was some case study which was conducted on the particularly highway equipment, where maintenance is costing a lot of time. Otherwise, and that way leading to the haltage of the traffic, particularly. Therefore, we have to have some remote and intelligent operations to maintain very heavy equipment which are there for the road constructions. So particularly it was in a case of European countries. So there they found that this advanced analytics resulted in the particularly predictive algorithms. They resulted in around prevention of the asset failures, and they proposed timely maintenance schedules and 8% drop in the maintenance cost and 10% reduction in the asset downtime and around 13% improvement in the overall asset productivity. So this particular study is very well known, and that proves that how this kind of IOA analytics is going to play a big role. And there are many applications of these techniques in the telecom operations like fraud detection, predictive analytics already playing a role, customer segmentations, then customer churn prevention, lifetime value predictions, network management optimization, then product development, recommendation engines, then customer sentiment analysis, the real-time analytics, and price optimization. So these tools, they are already finding a lot of applications in this telecom operations. And many companies where all these ITOA operations, they are championing around, there are 50 top firms, which some of them I mentioned here. As you can see that AIMSA, ATIO, then IVM, PMCs, they are there. And now, how this ITOA is very much playing a very new role that we have just seen from few articles in management science, that IT applications in the financial supply chain, you can see, like we have a situation where supplier is not getting bank guarantee or loan because he does not have information about how much retailers are going to give order to the suppliers. So the kind of information system that that need to be built up between the bank, retailer, and supplier, so that P2P kind of situation can be established and analyzed here. So this particular work we have just started doing, where the supplier and retailers are there. So you can see that retailer gives order to supplier, and then supplier gives product to them, and then there are a lot of information sharing among them. In between, there are some financing supply chain platforms like how you do the payments, like you have all the Paytm and etc. And then banks and financial institutions, they also share all the information. Then they decide that how much credit and other things will be given to the supplier. So this requires massive management of the information and network and analysis. And there, a lot of machine learning and big data analytics is playing a role. So you can see classic examples how in the financial supply chain this ITOA is playing a role. And then there is a very clearly well-defined now the ecosystem of the digitization, which we need for connecting with the different information. Like say we have to have a blockchain for what you call tracking and tracing of the product. We have a cyber security to in order to avoid the you can say fraud and all other details. Then cloud computing, big data is already mentioned. And then they have application in the operations management, computer science and engineering, supply chain management. Like say in SCM, we have drones, autonomous vehicles, augmented reality. They are going to come in days to come up. And already you can see there's some impact already during the pandemic operations. And in operations management, now you have to bother about 3D printing, additive manufacturing, reconfigurable systems, and sensor-based systems, knowledgeable manufacturing. Without that, actually, things are not going to be happen after few years. And then AI and engineering, you can say robotics, AI, machine learning, and all these things, they need to share information, internal and external stakeholder value. So between this block and you can say where how you are going to execute this, particularly the different kind of orders, etc. Like say tracking product, you require information exchange between this block and this one. So security, verification, trustability, in real time, easily accessible details. So all these things we require to build up the smart contract between the, you can say different players so that they can authorize the transactions for automation, reduce the negative impact on the environment. They can also carry out the effective demand forecasting. They can easily visualize the product and they can have the tracking of the product origin. So this is what we call ecosystem of digitization, which are being proposed and practiced by some of the firms involved in the ITOA operations. And just now I mentioned some of the emerging trends like how the blockchain, data generation points, different kind of other operations are taking place, which I am listing here. So one is the very popular trend of the edge computing. This is called the prediction by edge computer and cloud computing. Here you have a say machine or systems. They have a lot of sensors. From here, sensor data is going to the data acquisition system. From here, it goes to the switches, and from there it goes to the edge computer. It's like same computer, but they are getting different information from the different sources. So you can see, and here they have, once you get the edge computer data, then they have many open source platforms through which they are connected, and then different kind of data centers are there, and from there they send it to the different cloud servers. I'm audible? Anupam?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. In between, you have to ask them because none of us are here. So as you can see that from cloud server, then it goes to the different facilities where it requires. And then we used all this kind of two popular learning, that is supervised and unsupervised, and then extract the data and also have different algorithms to find out what is the demand and what are the flaw and what are the faults, all those things, then we can predict. So this is the framework that is being used now by the, you can say, a cloud computing in connection with the edge computer to predict the different things. And then you can see there is a very interesting concept came because of the simulation that is called digital twin, where we have both digital world and physical world. Now they are combining, like say, in the pandemic, a lot of analysis has been done with respect to the predictions of the demand and forecasting of many items. And also, they are helping actually to effective routing and distribution of the food grains that we have seen in many of the supply chain operations. So what it does actually, the digital twin basically it maps both physical world and digital world, and then very powerful simulation tools they are using, and in that way they are also linked with the say statistical modeling schemes, uh, also machine learning component like SVM, decision tree, nearest neighbor, and data visualization tools also like you can see MATLAB, Ggplot, Python's Shibon, Pandas, and all MATLAB library. So all these things they are connected, and they will based on that they have to carry out the big data analytics, supply chain analytics, and all the predictive analytics operations. And another big concept which has came and now being practiced mostly in the oil and gas supply chain is the control tower. So this control tower concept may also very soon come to the this one, like say store and retail systems, food grain systems, and also Walmart type of companies they are going to use in big way, because here you can see this tracking of the everything, all the information control and analysis to be done from one simple systems, and then the raw material supplier, manufacturers, distributor, retailers, all the informations they are well connected, and we have different modules embedded here to analyze the problems actually. So keeping all these newer trends, I can say this control tower, digital twin, and then ITO applications with a lot of algorithms and analytical tools. Now I think they are going to enable our business leader, particularly the people who are involved in the data science applications in the management. So they may have a lot of challenges, and very, you can say, distinct advantages are being mentioned by applications of all these things. So, Anupam, this is what I wanted to present. So, anything you want to say, please tell me.
So wonderful and very insightful presentation, I should say. Learned a lot of things, not a lot of new things during your presentation.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir. You talked about hybrid model analytics. So, sir, can you please little explain about its implementation in today's time?
Actually, when I say hybrid model analytics, then we are not having data from one type actually, correct? There are many kind of data we are getting from, you can say, connection from network, phone, or from other sources. So they need to have now been homogenized actually. So you have to convert them into the format which they can easily be processed, correct? So when you say this form of analytics, so there we have to do such kind of things. Then only you can say that you will be able to apply the different algorithms for solving the problems. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Anything else?
So thank you, sir, for those were some really insightful and motivating thoughts. IT and operation area is blessed to have guidance from illustrious mentors like names who have guided us from time to time and have helped the area to grow and develop a strong connect between latest academic trends and industry needs by being part of our area advisory board. Let's have a look at the area advisory members of IT and operations.
Is my screen visible, sir?
Yes, it is visible. Ria, it is visible.
Okay. We have with us Professor Male Bhattacharya, who is Emeritus Professor at IIM Kashipur, 2001 present, and was a former professor at IIM Bangalore. Professor Sameer Srivastav, Dean Research and co-founder of Procurement Observatory at IIM Lucknow. Mr. Devendra Sharma, DGM Quality, Tata Motors Limited, Commercials. We have Professor Ashwini Kumar, Information Systems, IIM Lucknow. Mr. Saurabh Srivastav, Client Delivery Partner, International Public Services Business, Tata Consultancy Services. Mr. Ashfaq Ahmed, DVP2 and Regional Head, TASC, IndusInd Bank. We feel proud to have support of you guys with us. Thank you. I would now like to present before you all a compilation of achievements made by alumni of Jaipuria, Lucknow in the field of IT, operations management and decision sciences. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Ria, it is visible.
So presenting some distinguished alumni in the field of IT and operations. Shilpi Singh. Batch 1995 to 1997, delivery leader, quality leader as FISO, and motivated, persons with leadership proficiency and more than 19 years of experience in domains like banking, IT, healthcare, and education. Rod Mittal, batch 1995 to 1997, associate consultant at Tata Consultants and Services, experienced associate technical consultant with a demonstrated history of working in the information technology and service industry. Pankaj Maheshwari, batch 1995 to 1997, senior consultant, DXC technology, dynamic and result-oriented professional offering combined experience of 20 years in SAP and sales and marketing. Sandeep Verma, batch 1996 to 1998, senior principal project manager at Oracle Corporation. He has more than 22 years of experience in leading tech companies with many awards and achievements. Sanjay Devnath, batch 1996 to 1998, head product engineering and R&D at Provise Consulting. More than 20 years of experience in information technology industry with core focus on product development and management in IT security. Rishiraj Biswas, batch 1996 to 1998, senior manager projects at Cognizant Technology Solutions. More than 19 years of experience in IT in multiple domains like banking and financial services. Arvind Gupta, batch 1997 to 1999, director and global head of security and quality management at APJ and SAP Innovative Business Solutions, working at SAP Labs Private Limited as global head of security and quality management head. Anand Srivastava, batch 1997 to 1999, head of product management at Genesis Engage India. She's a professional with keen business sense and deep expertise in product management and marketing. Amritendu Roy, batch 2005 to 2007, data science leader at Paramedica. More than 14 years of data science machine learning experience with more than 10 years in leading data science teams. Soumilya Saha, batch 2005 to 2007, analytics professional at Genpact. Analytics professional with 14 years of experience in insurance and banking industry across US, European region, and India. Avdesh Pandey, batch 2008 to 2010, Assistant General Manager at HSIL Limited, more than 10 years of experience in the field of sourcing, quality control, product development, and vendor management.
That'll surely motivate the current and many batches to come. We feel proud to be a part of this institution that has produced gems like them.
So it is a great pleasure for me to share the point of views of two of the recent graduates from the area of IT operation management and decision sciences, Ms. Ashi Goyal and Ms. Diksha Singh of Jaipuria Institute of Management, Lucknow, to share their views.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Everyone, my name is Ashi Goyal. I'm currently working as a network planner for skincare at Hindustan Unilever Limited.
Your voice is not audible.
Yes, sir.
It is not audible. Voice is not audible.
Just a second, sir.
my name is Ashi Goyal, and I'm currently working as a network planner for skincare at Hindustan Unilever.
So is it now?
Yes, it is audible now.
Okay.
Limited. Network planning is basically a subset of supply planning, which comes under the purview of operations. In terms of education, I've done my PGDM, Finance and Operations from Jaipuria Institute of Management, Lucknow. When I talk about the journey to HUL, it was fairly simple. I did not have to do much, just had to attend all my classes, understand my basic concepts and apply them both in my interview and in a job profile. To give a fair idea of the statement, I would say that concepts like inventory turnover ratio, cycle time, replenishment cycle, availability cycle, all of these concepts are exactly what I'm using in my job role currently, bringing in changes, making sure there are no losses, and producing without any gaps, without any lead times. And this is exactly how a typical supply chain works, that you bring in transitions, no issue on that, but all these transitions should come in a way that it should not cost the company a day of service loss. And all of these concepts I did not have to learn at HUL, because all of these concepts were something that we did brush through and did learn when we were doing our supply plan classes. I believe it's easier for any student who attends all of our classes pretty regularly and understands and evaluates each and every option, comes back with different questions, different theories, and then actually apply all of these things in your job. Hi everyone, my name is Ashi Goyal, and I'm currently working as a network planner for skincare at Hindustan Unilever Limited.
We have one more with us, Diksha Singh. I'll be sharing that too.
Hello,
So is my screen visible?
Yes, it is visible, Ria.
My name is Mishra Singh, and I am a PhD student of Jaipuria Institute of Management, Lucknow, specializing in operations and marketing. I have been currently placed with Hindustan Unilever Limited as an executive trainee in the domain of supply chain operations. HUL is a dream company of many, same was mine. But cracking HUL would not have been possible without the joint efforts of my faculty, who not just merely taught us, but made us understand each and every possible concept of operations that has been covered during the entire 2-year PGDM program, by giving us and making us understand the various definitions given by various writers, their applications in the real-time scenario, also making us further understand it much better. We were supposed to visit various organizations and then make projects on how those concepts that is being taught us in the class are being actually implemented by this organization, and then giving presentations on the same. There were learning teams where every learning team was given different industries to cover. So this actually helped us during the presentation time to listen to other LDs and understand that how the concept that I have come to know that how they are implementing in the particular industry that has been assigned to me, and how that same concept is being applied in the other industry as well. To know the difference, to know the complications. So this gave us a better understanding approach. And last but not the least, the rigorous practice of the case studies that we have done. Not only the pre-pandemic situations we have covered in our case studies, but also the post-pandemic situation. So I'm basically very thankful to my faculty that because they were there at every single point of time to make us understand and teach us that okay, these are the concepts that are being applied by the company, why they are applying it, and what changes also they can make in order to become more efficient. So overall, I would really like to thank Jaipuria Institute of Management and my faculty who have helped me sail through the entire placement process and make me stand where I'm standing today. Thank you so much. Well, my name is Diksha Singh and I am a PhD student, Jaipuria Institute of Management, Lucknow, specialized.
Now, moving forward to the panel discussion, I would like to welcome Professor Deepak Singh, the chairperson of the Center for Entrepreneurship and Family Business and faculty at Jaipuria Institute of Management, Lucknow, as the moderator for this panel discussion. Sir, we are pleased to have you here with us today. I now request Deepak sir to take over the proceedings of the event.
Thanks, Aditya. So we have some eminent panelists with us who will speak on ITOA. I will request everyone to kindly please start with a short introduction of the domain in which they are working. Also, if they have some innovation in last 1 year or so, I request them to please elaborate on the same. So there will be the structure is like this. There will be a short introduction of the panelists and their work in the 5 minutes. So I will ask them to speak for 5 minutes or so. After that, we will have some pertinent questions. I will try to ask some questions which are there from audience or maybe which are related to our field, and then we can move towards the culmination of the same. So we will start with Bhaskar sir. So I request him to please tell me something about him and something about the work which he is doing in this domain. So please, sir. So.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good evening. I just have one. You can just go on mute in case you're not speaking because there's a lot of background noise. Okay, thank you. Okay, so my name is Bhaskar Roy. I've been working with Genpact as a vice president and global operating leader for data science and business analytics group. I've been working in this domain for the last 23 years now. I mean, in data science and business analytics, statistics, etc. From as far as the education goes, I'm a PhD in applied statistics and MBA, and I've been basically working with various industries in last 20 years with my stint with GE and Genpact. I've basically worked with banking, insurance, manufacturing, energy, oil and gas, aviation, different sort of industries and different kind of applications. My expertise is basically, helping the businesses, to adopt to, the smart way of working, which is basically enabled by data science and analytics, and helping them to basically kind of go through this journey. So, now you've been hearing a lot of times about this word called digital transformation, right? So, in my opinion, digital is easy, right? I mean, because we have tools and technologies in the market. But transformation is different because the transformation is extremely difficult because for transformation, you need to basically understand the nuances of the industry, the nuances of the business, and then only you can lead to a transformation if you're able to, kind of take that organization through that journey. And in that journey, there is a lot of change management needs to be driven. So I have been basically doing it for last 20 years in Genpact. Helping various organizations to basically embark this journey. There are several companies who are leading in this journey, and there are companies who have started just now. But my role as a consultant and as an advisor is to basically help them to kind of expedite the entire journey. So and the areas are different. I mean, right from basically from marketing, sales to commercial, to supply chain, to logistics, to cash management, everything, whichever function is important for the business. So that's a brief kind of background about myself and the kind of work I do. Over to you, Dr. Deepak Singh.
Thanks, Bhaskar sir. A nice point I captured here is digital transformation, and we will discuss that in detail. First, let's hear from other panelists also. So I invite Naveen ji. Naveen ji is here. He is from retail domain, and I think retail domain has changed a lot. Has seen a lot of changes in the last 1 year or so. Naveen ji, so I just need a small introduction about the work you are doing in this field. Naveen ji, please.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank you for inviting me to be part of this distinct panel discussion. And I would also like to thank Mr. Rajan Bhandari and Professor Tiwari, who have touched upon a few things which have been core of my work for the last 20 years. As Mr. Bhandari said, we do everything keeping in mind the customers. So for retail, what we say is customer is God for us. So whatever technology or whatever IT we use is keeping in mind the customers at the nucleus of everything, whatever we do. I would say, barring finance exposure, I have worked in all the domains of retail, which is about category management, which is about retail operations, which is about buying and merchandising, and to project management and property acquisition. And how have we used IT and technology is very interesting, which have evolved in last, I would say, 5 to 7 years. See, I won't name, but biggest of the international brands in India are still working out of Excel sheets. And if you were to scale up in retail, you just cannot scale up only by adding stores. You need to scale up by leveraging technology and IT. We have been using IT and technology in demand forecasting, which have actually led us to almost 90% fill rates. When I say fill rates is, if we have planned some 100 SKUs on a shelf or in a store, we have achieved with demand forecasting to almost 90% plus fill rates, which is far beyond the international standards. Only players like Zara or Primark in apparel industry are able to achieve that 90% fill rate forecasting. There was a technology which came into force somewhere around 2010 or so, which was RFID, and which got defunct, somehow lost in the maze. But we have been using that RFID technology to actually track the journey of a merchandise from a manufacturer's factory to our final selling at the cost. And this also helps in a vertical and a backward integration into the entire supply chain. So example, if one of my apparel is sold in one of the stores, it will trigger a purchase, a store, I would say a stock transfer order into my warehouse, and automatically will also alert my manufacturer that I have sold, so that he starts manufacturing it. So there is no human intervention as such using this RFID technology, which we have been using it very successfully in our supply chain. For retail, they say location is of paramount importance in any of the retail chains worldwide. We have leveraged Google's technology in identifying the properties where we can go for property selection or a site selection using Google Analytics. Google has helped us in throwing a lot of data in terms of how many home deliveries are happening in that particular area, how many customers are being online in those areas. So there seems to be a gap. And if there is no retail outlets over there, so that is a potential site. So we've been leveraging that particular technology also at the same time. For a customer marketing activity, I would say I was fortunate enough to attend one of the renowned management gurus of the world, Dr. Ramcharan. He coined a very nice equation for us, and we have then been leveraging that for the last 5 years. He gave us an equation which is n is equal to 1. I would repeat, n is equal to 1. He says there are nth number of customers in this universe, okay? But every customer would like to be treated individually. It is 1. We have been able to use technology in terms of offering an individual offers and promotions to a customer. For example, if a customer by our data analytics, we see that he has bought a lot of diapers, which means that he has got a kid at home which is around 2 to 3 years old, that means we can always give him a targeted offer for kids apparels, which is somewhere between 2 to 3 years. We can always see that a lot of customers are being, they've been buying Tata Gold tea from us, which means that they've been consuming a premium tea. So we can give them an offer for tea and cup sets exclusively. So this N is equal to 1, we've been leveraging with this technology help for last 5 years very smoothly. And for marketing also, we have been using a lot of technology and IT with Twitter and with Google Connect, Google Smart Search. So wherever, if you were to, for example, type atta or a multigrain atta, so whenever the Google shows some options, and if customer clicks on a Big Bazaar as an ad search over there, he gets a coupon. So we have been driving in online to offline footfalls also in our stores using this analytics. And there have been a lot of usage of technology which have made life of the retail executive on the floor. So he doesn't have to spend time in front of the computers searching for the stocks. Everything has been confined to 6-inch mobile, wherein he can scan an SKU and understand whether that SKU is lying in the store or is it in transit or when it live. So he communicates with customers very confidently about. So all this technology evolution in retail probably might not be in the forefront, but it is visible very much in the foundation and the scaling up, which a lot of companies in India have been doing so. So this is about my work, Professor, and if you have some pertinent questions during the passage of time, I'll be glad to address those.
So great. You have mentioned a lot of new tech which are there in retail, specifically RFID. I heard a lot about RFID. In fact, we have done some research on that field, and it's good to know that Big Bazaar is using that. So definitely new technologies are coming on and helping retail and other sectors in a very important way. So now I will ask Mr. Arjun, who is an expert in blockchain, to tell us something about blockchain, a brief thing, and how it's helping the industry to grow. So please, Arjun, are you there?
Right. Thank you for having me. So of course, so my blockchain journey, so I started to work for about close to 12 years, and I've sort of worked across a multitude of different technologies, including computer vision, but primarily my experience has been in blockchain over the past 5 years. And of course, the story of blockchain is very interesting, that it started in 2009 with the advent of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was created by an anonymous founder, right? So we still don't know who the creator of Bitcoin or blockchain technology is. And this is kind of what made it so interesting, is that this is kind of what I felt blockchain technology, before I get into industry use cases, is that it in many ways represents what a digital native world will look like where essentially a sense of identity, a sense of ownership goes away, and technology exists as a public resource which can be used for different people, by different people, to solve different kinds of problems. So the fact that blockchain technology now is so prevalent, and it's also been, it's so useful in many different domains, and the fact that we don't even know who the founder is I think what makes it super interesting. And what I'm trying to say here is that now it doesn't matter when you look at public infrastructure and public goods and a technology like blockchain, it doesn't matter who the founder is. It matters that what people are able to do with the technology. Now, of course, when we talk about blockchain technology, there's a lot of information out there. There is also an equal amount of misinformation out there. There's been a lot of, it's been in the media lately. The blockchain, or rather the cryptocurrency markets, are doing really well. There's a lot of habla also in parliament about what we should do with cryptocurrencies, whether we should tax them, whether we should ban them. It's pretty interesting. I'm very happy that our government has adopted a different stance where they're willing to work with this technology, because the typical government stance, which I've seen at least over the past 2 decades, has been, if you don't understand something, ban it. And that hope luckily is not the prevalent thought process going forward, which I think is how it should be. We need to be more accepting of new technology and look at some of the pros and cons. Every technology will have some pros and cons, and it's important for the government to weigh them and come up with the right policies. It's interesting also that this discussion is happening now because NITIE actually published in 2016 the first, you could say, white paper about how blockchain technology could potentially benefit our country, right? And now getting into like how it could benefit it, what it can do, and what I've been working on or been excited about over, let's say, the last year. So it's sort of, so in 2016 and 17, when blockchain first became very popular, The main conversation was around supply chain, about business process optimization. It was interesting because that was when I was in Tech Mahindra, and we were discussing how you could use blockchain technology, which essentially solves your middleman problem, right? So if suppose two parties need to sort of transact or interact with one another, you now don't need the third party in between. So the man in the middle is gone, and essentially the man in the middle is replaced by computer code. So in the supply chain, for example, instead of having manual couriers updating data across the entire supply chain, you would have one blockchain which would be storing the data of the entire supply chain. And this data can never be manipulated, can never be changed. It would also be real time. It can be accessed anywhere where there's an internet connection. So it represented an entirely different way of looking at business problems, which in a more collaborative manner, in a more real-time manner, where you don't have thousands of interconnected systems, but just one system which everybody then connects to, which is your public infrastructure. So this is kind of where the conversation started. However, now if you fast forward 3-4 years later, the world's kind of gone pretty crazy in terms of what's happening with the blockchain world, right? So two main themes which everybody would hear about these days about blockchain is, number one, decentralized finance, right? And for me, decentralized finance is something which is so amazing and so disruptive that once you get involved in it and once you start reading about it, and for me, I basically live that life, you kind of realize how it has the potential to change everything. So if you were to look at any economic system, right, and if you break it down to its bare bones, you forget about all the different layers, you just break it down to its bare bones. Essentially, every economy depends on two main factors, which is borrowing and lending, right? So people have capital, they lend it. People who want capital borrow it. They sort of create industries, which then creates more capital, more value, and then which again, sort of flows. And then essentially all of this capital sort of starts flowing within the ecosystem. And essentially, if you look at how the economy functions, you have RBI, which then capitalizes banks, which then capitalizes business, which then capitalizes more private businesses. And then essentially you have your own whole economy running. What decentralized finance does is that all of your lending and borrowing now, which is done, let's say, by banks or by other financial institutions, all of this is now done by computer code. So your bank is gone. Your lending authority, gone. Your stock trading apps, etc., gone. Like everything now is done by computer code. And this computer code is stored on the blockchain, so it can never be manipulated or hacked. The data is stored on the blockchain, which can never be manipulated or hacked. It's also open. So for example, all of this NPA crisis where capital flowed in XYZ directions, nobody had any clue what was going on. Impossible, because the blockchain is readily auditable at any given moment of time. So it represents an entirely different paradigm of thinking about it. So for example, when borrowing and lending happens on the blockchain, people essentially upload, and if I were to really use these simplistic terms, people upload their money to computer code. The computer code then lends it out. And then whenever it gets the money back, you get it back with interest. Everything happens with computer code. So which basically, when I say computer code, I'm actually talking about a smart contract, but just to keep it simple. So this decentralized finance, where essentially all of these different centralized authorities are gone, in my opinion, it represents an entirely different way of thinking. And this is going to change the world for sure. And now the whole idea of scaling, sort of if you look at the cryptocurrency markets, they're worth a few $1 trillion. Larger than some economies of the world, larger than some of the countries. So I really feel that as this catches more steam and more people get into it, we will see more decentralized finance happening, and you will see then sort of computer code only banks, where essentially the entire bank is a computer code, and there are no people and there's nothing. You just have a mobile phone and that's it. And all the operational efficiencies which you can achieve through this kind of a system would be immense and amazing. The cost of borrowing or lending would go down dramatically because all the different sort of layers in between are gone. So this is a quick brief about decentralized finance. The other very disruptive idea, which in my opinion will also change content and content creation, is this idea of NFT, non-fungible token. I don't know how many of you have been following this on Twitter or maybe some other forums. So we've had non-fungible tokens being sold for millions of dollars. And if I were to just quickly take a minute to explain to you what is a non-fungible token, it's something like this. So when you have currency notes, right? So currency notes essentially are fungible. So what that means is if I have a 10 rupee note and have another 10 rupee note, both of them have the same value because it's 10 rupees. Now, both the notes are still different in the sense they have sort of unique serial numbers and you can track the note and all of that, but they represent the same value. A non-fungible token essentially is sort of a token or a piece of computer code which is unique. It can never be replicated. The blockchain will simply not allow you to replicate a non-fungible token, hence the term non-fungible. And it's a token. And this token can represent any kind of data. It can represent music, it can represent pictures, art, it can represent even documents, and essentially any piece of data can be converted into a non-fungible token. And the moment you create this token, it's unique. It can never be replicated. So your entire piracy problem is gone. So which is why many content creators these days are jumping onto the bandwagon and creating non-fungible tokens of their music, of their art, and then trading it, right? And because you're trading this on the blockchain, all of your, sort of auction houses, all of your agents, gone. All the trading is done by computer code. So essentially you create content, you mint a token, and you can go and sell it. All of this can be accomplished, by the way, in one click. And this, in my opinion, represents an entirely different way of content. So content creation, how does it typically work? If you, for example, let's say you want to make some music, you maybe put it on YouTube, all the money is taken essentially by YouTube, who tells you that unless you have some ginormous 50 million followers, you will not get a penny from us. You go to a music producer who then takes value. You go to, let's say album producer who then takes value. Essentially, the person who always gets the raw end of the deal is the content creator, and everybody else in the middle takes the money. In this case, there is nobody else in the middle. There's nothing. It's computer code. So all the power now goes to the content creator, right? And especially, I was just hearing, Naveen sort of talk about, retail and how you're using analytics in retail. You could take certain items, for example, digital items, right? You could take, like, for example, clothing, and for every clothing you produce, let's say, which is created, every unique kind of clothing, you can create a digital twin, which would be a token, which can never be replicated. And then essentially this would, in my opinion, non-fungible token would represent the digital twin of that particular dress, because just like how you could not copy that dress, you would never be able to copy this token. And this completely changes how you think about digital twins. And like I said, once you have the digital twin, you can exchange it. So what is happening in the art world or in the wine world, for example? So lots of people, collectors, look at art or wine as investments. So for us, when we think of Mona Lisa, we're like, oh, $250 million, Mona Lisa, I wonder who buys it or whatever. It's actually an investment, because the longer you hold on to expensive art, like a Vincent van Gogh or a Mona Lisa, the more expensive it becomes. It's an investment. Expensive wine is an investment. Like we think, right, who buys this wine, and must be some collector, too much money. No, these are people who understood that these things are investments. So what do you do, right? So you take a piece of art, you put it into a safe, so you don't have to physically transfer it anywhere. You mint a token, and now you keep trading the token. So let's say I'm a Japanese collector. I have a piece of art. I put it in a safe. I've minted a token. I can sell that to an American. You can sell that to a European. You can sell that to an Indian. And the token is essentially going everywhere, but your painting is still in one place. So now you 100x the trade of a physical item, of a very expensive physical item, which you could never be able to transport, right? And this is completely, made it crazy for me, because I never knew that painting or art is actually an investment. It's not what crazy rich people buy. It's an investment. It's just maybe we can't afford it, but that's how people look at it. Nobody drinks those expensive wines. So this is like super crazy, where you can take real world assets, you can mint these tokens. And the moment you mint this token, because it can never be replicated, it's one of a kind, it 100x's the kind of trade you can do with that commodity. You don't have to physically transport it on an aircraft and do all that crap, right? You can just transfer it from let's say a wallet, a cryptocurrency wallet, and you can exchange tokens. Completely revolutionary. So now this is very exciting for me, and that's why I talk about it with so much excitement, is because this is completely mind warped, like, my brain, when I think about how the trade is going to look like possibly in 2025. So blockchain technology essentially just requires you to have an internet connection. 50% of our country, which is India, now has broadband access. All of us, sort of carry sort of very powerful sort of devices which are networked and have fast internet connections in our hands, which are our mobile phones. Our mobile phones are sort of like a part of our identity now, just like how maybe in the 1980s or 90s, you would never leave home without your wallet. Now you never leave home without your mobile phone. So all of that token, all of those things I talked about, all of your wealth, all of your digital wealth, all of your possessions, if you have a digital twin, you carry that with you on your phone. Completely different way of thinking, decentralized, distributed, where there is no central authority and everybody's transacting across the world. And people have taken this concept to entirely different levels of craziness, where, for example, now there is how Bitcoin or blockchain technology works is that there are multiple copies of the same blockchain database for high degree of fault tolerance, right? And anybody can create a copy. So I can run a blockchain node, like a Bitcoin node. And what a Bitcoin node would represent is a complete copy of the blockchain database. And the more number of copies there are, the more number of nodes there are, the more powerful the blockchain network is, and also the more fault tolerant it is. So some people have put a node, a Bitcoin node, and you can Google this, on a satellite, which is orbiting the Earth. So suppose there was a world war and all of us destroyed and killed each other. Because there is one copy, backup copy of the blockchain on a satellite, you could recover the entire world's financial system, even after a world-ending event, which again is completely crazy. Like how does that even work? We can't understand that. Like the way we would probably think about it is you build a vault somewhere in Iceland where, under a glacier or something, store something there. Maybe some hard disk you put there, which has like a backup of, I don't know, the NYSE stock exchange. With blockchain, none of that. You just need to maintain one node. And if that node can be on a satellite or, I don't know, on the moon or whatever, you can recover the entire world's financial system in one go, even after a world-ending event. This, in my opinion, is sort of the future. No, not the world-ending event, but the fact that you could recover the financial system of the world, because it now depends on a series of nodes. Anybody can run a node, anybody can do it. So this decentralized, distributed way of thinking, in my opinion, is the future. And for me, it's super exciting. Every day there's something crazy happening. So, it keeps me up at night all the time. And I hope that, I've got some of you also thinking about, about this differently. And you research more about it. And if you have any questions, just feel free to get in touch with me. And, I'd love to take you on this wild, crazy roller coaster journey of blockchain. And I'm sure that it will sort of force you or shock you into maybe thinking about economics, about art, or about investments, or even about your physical possessions in an entirely different manner. So this is what I've been working on for the past year. So thank you for bearing with me.
Great, very, very interesting, Arjunji. It's like directly from science fiction from Hollywood, specifically that is smart contract and NFT. So just for the sake of knowledge of our students, I just want to tell that in the last week, 2 Indian investors buy the digital art in that NFT format in around 550 CR. 550 crore they have paid for that digital art, I think.
Yeah, 69 million. Medico, I spoke to him last week. I've actually been connected with him for a long time. So pretty awesome guy, a very humble guy from South India, in fact. I think he's from Kerala.
Yeah, he's a Kerala, exactly. So these things are happening in the world, specifically smart contract. And Arjunji, definitely we will discuss a lot on this, and we will try to relate this with our real life working of industries. But let's move to our last panelist, and he is working in a very, very interesting domain again, and that specifically is design thinking. So we are thinking a lot, we are making a lot of things nowadays, but as Naveen ji said that customer is the god, so everything is customer centric, and also I think Bhaskar said the same. So let's hear from Utkarsh. Utkarsh, are you there? What's your take on this, and how what's the area in which you are working from last few days? So Utkarsh, are you there?
Hi. Thank you everyone for having me, and good evening everyone. So I mean, some very great insights from people, starting from customer to ending something on blockchain and the use cases, different use cases that we can use. So in my view, the entire industry, or the world, I would say, will witness more radical changes in next 10 years than it has witnessed in last 30. I mean, whatever we have witnessed and learned in last 30 years got changed in a matter of just 5 or 6 years. And that's going to be the case from now. No one has ever imagined the way COVID has changed. So currently I'm working as a lead innovation with DCB Bank, where my role is to understand the requirement internally that we have, that our business processes have, and serve them, whether if it's possible from internal resources, then very well. If it's not, then from external partners and all those external vendors, to help them create new processes, ideas, services, or even to some extent to some products. So, and how I'm doing this, with the help of design thinking as a pedagogy. So we spoke a lot about customer centric approach or customer driven market, but what is at core of everything? So we had an era where we worked on the products. So uh, let's say late 90s, there was a time when organization used to create the products and then you used to throw it into the market, and the marketing team used to sell that. So this was a very typical straightforward journey, and that has nothing to relate directly with the requirement of people. But lately it got changed. I mean, now the organization are moving from their own product centric approach to customer centric approach, and this is happening via design thinking route. So it's basically nothing but a process, or I can say a pedagogy, or 5 or 6 steps, the way Tim Brown from IDEO has defined it, that it's just a human centric approach to innovation that draws from designers toolkit. I mean, what designers toolkit is, we can always talk in detail, to integrate the needs of people and the possibilities of technology and requirement to access the business needs. So at the end, we are solving the business problems, but we are keeping the technology, we are keeping the people in center of everything. So the 5 or 6 different stages, I mean, there is still a debate in the uh, the in the people who are practicing this, that whether we should have 5 or 6 different stages for this, starting from empathizing, which is learning more and more for your audience, and understanding about what their behavioral aspects are, how they gonna react on anything, is something that we can learn from empathize stage. And then there is something which is also very important on this stage, which is framing a question. I mean, we need to understand that what are those important questions that we want to ask our consumers and customers. And also there is a very thin line when we say about consumers and customers. So this is very important. And in Toyota's way, Toyota has described this very beautifully, that what is the importance of consumer and what is the importance of customer. So design thinking again is a tool which can help you understand why it's very important for us to empathize, and then go and define the problem. So sometimes what happened, that we move towards solving the problem so fast that we leave defining the problem on the very first step. Defining a problem is very important for us to understand what different use cases we can carry towards the end of solution. And then possibly comes the ideation and prototyping stage, which is backbone of any innovative approach that we can take before finally submitting it for testing. So yeah, that's a brief about the pedagogy and the work that I do. I'll be happy to take more questions in the later discussions.
Sure, Utkarsh, I will be back to you with some more questions. So we got some questions from the audiences, and I will start from a very, very interesting question, which definitely everybody who thinks about or who hears about this robotics or automation thinks that in mind. So let me open that. Just give me 1 minute. So this question I will ask this question from Bhaskar sir, because I think you deal with a lot of companies, and also you can see the scenarios of hiring nowadays. So our student Sonali Gupta asked that India is a labor-intensive country with high unemployment nowadays. Since latest technology has reduced labor interventions, what will be the future of unemployment? How technology can overcome this unemployment issue in India? Bhaskar sir, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
This is the question asked by our students. So can you please throw some light on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll basically, I'll answer this, and maybe, somebody else can also, kind of throw light on this one. So if you basically look at the industry landscape, how it has changed over I think we did speak about, it was basically mostly, it was a product manufacturing, and then, the boom of the services industry came in. We never thought that, India is going to be intellectual capital for the world. I mean, when you say labor intensive, I don't agree to it. I think, we started as a cost-effective country or a basically low-cost country. But I think today, we are basically being known as the intellectual, capability across the world. So we have, produced the maximum number of scientists, maximum number of doctors, maximum number of data scientists, maximum number of innovators, I think. So, I mean, what has changed? The change is that we have changed ourselves. We have become more skilled now. A simple guy, who used to basically kind of, has to have a basic skill, upgraded themselves to basically match on, with the changing industry, demand. So I think with the technology changes, absolutely there are a lot of automation is going to happen, a lot of job elimination is going to happen. But I can tell you that, we'll basically generate jobs at least 500 times more than the elimination. The reason being that, the capabilities, there are enormous opportunities which will basically come out. The use of machine learning, the use of artificial intelligence, the use of blockchain, this will basically open up, newer, areas, newer dimensions, for our people. So I think the answer is that you have to change yourself. Okay, if your specialization is in marketing, you should know digital marketing. You should know campaign management. You should know, what is basically being required in the industry. If you only think that, basically that I'm just an engineer, I can basically do whatever I want. I mean, no, you have to change your skills and, match up with the industry demand. So keep on changing yourself, keep on upgrading yourself, and then, I'm sure that, there'll be no dearth of, opportunities for all of us, and we will, basically kind of ride this wave, which is going to stay, for next, 30, 35 years for sure. So no need to worry. I think this is an opportunity rather than a threat.
Yeah, exactly. I think what you want to say is that upskilling is the key. And we tell this to a lot of students, you can upskill yourself and you can get a very good job even in this scenario. So I will ask this question again from Naveen ji, because Naveen ji is in retail sector and retail is one of the highest recruiter throughout India. So Naveen ji, are we feeling any unemployment issues due to this implementation of RFIDs or maybe automation of supply chain?
Sir, I would like to differ slightly. I would say, let me take you back to 2000 initially. If I were to say, probably 100 crore store for us, we would employ some 300 manpower to manage that store. Okay? But in today's scenario, 100 crore store, we would employ just only 150, which means 150 people have gone out from the entire payrolls. But that's not the case. Those 150 people have been somewhere been accommodated in the entire value chain. It could be in the supply chain, or it could be in the ATL market, or it could be other departments. You see, and moreover, going forward, every organization, every industry, and especially COVID has taught us, they are going in for cost optimization. And that's a hardcore reality of life. If I would talk about agriculture also, which is very, very labor intensive, but a lot of farmers are using technology in terms of what about the productivity, about the price of the crops using technology. But that doesn't eliminate the need of a labor. A person will be required to plow the fields. A person will be required to sell the floor also. It is all about building efficiency into the system and looking at the cost optimization going forward.
Great. Again, nice insight. So I think Sonali got her answer. So the second question is from our student Akshay, and he wants to ask Arjun ji that what shall happen to the underlying asset under NFT in the case of settlement of transaction, as the actual asset is with the transaction initiator. So a very, very nice question. The actual asset is with the owner. So how the other owners or the subsequent owners are going to get the benefits of it. So Arjun ji, are you there?
Sure. I'm glad to, and I'll just cover that question. So in this case, I think I'd given a short answer on the chat, but I'll just sort of elaborate on that. So think of it this way, right? So today, let's say you want to sell a piece of land, right? So how does the process happen? So there's an asset, which is the land, and you have some papers which represent your ownership of that, right? And essentially you give those papers to someone else who, like, for example, let's say I want to sell that piece of land. I take some money, sort of sign on that paper, and then I sort of transfer the ownership to that person, right? And the underlying asset is still there. It's just the ownership has changed. Now, this is exactly what you can do with an NFT. So if you mint an NFT for that piece of real estate, you can essentially transfer ownership across, like, for example, across large spaces without the need of documents, right? And essentially then that sort of land can be transferred 100 different times for different owners without needing all of this different documentation. Now, let's look at a different case. So now there are two kinds of cases here, right? One is the case of land. Second is the case of something like, let's say, like I said, expensive piece of art, right? Like, so for example, let's say a museum has some paintings, and that's it. The paintings are owned by a certain owner. So the museum, or rather the owner, could then sell that piece of art to 100 different people without having to physically transport the painting, using that NFT, and the painting would still be there. And the sort of the museum makes a cut for maintaining the physical product, right? So in this way, you've completely changed the economics of, for example, let's say a museum, or also any sort of service which sort of maintains the underlying physical asset. So the NFT idea scales really, really well to these kind of very expensive, or rather immovable assets. Like I said, for example, pieces of land or art, or let's say for example, expensive wines, and other kind of sort of items. Now, if you were to talk about the retail case, let's say you're selling a dress, right? Now you're sort of selling, let's say I'm a designer, right? And I'm sort of created a certain kind of dress. I can mint that dress, sort of the design, as an NFT, and now that IP, right, the intellectual property of that particular dress, now is represented by the NFT. So whoever wants to manufacture that dress, I can send that NFT to that person, and then that person becomes sort of the manufacturer. And then suppose somebody else wants to manufacture it, he can sort of sell the NFT to the other person. So this is kind of how the idea would scale, where either you have an expensive underlying asset, or the underlying asset is some form of intellectual property. And if you could mint this, so this is when I talk about content, when I talk about video, photo, or audio, like if you have any kind of intellectual property, or you have an expensive immovable assets, the NFT really scales very well to that use case. And then essentially when the token goes from A to B, what it represents is a transfer of ownership.
Okay, I think Akshay got the idea. So very nice answer. Now we can understand what's the process going on in the background. So I will definitely come back to you, Arjun ji, with some more questions related to smart contract. But I just want Utkarsh also to elaborate on how this maybe blockchain or maybe some new technologies are changing the face of fintech. So I every day see a lot of new fintech apps are launching, and a lot of new fintech companies are getting funds. So how this ITOA thing, or maybe blockchain, or maybe some new innovations, or for both industrial revolution related innovations are changing this face of banks and fintech? Utkarsh, please.
Yeah, so I mean, this is very, we are witnessing this growth story very often when a new fintech or even a new technology company is always there to solve few of our problems as a banking ecosystem. And in a larger space, it always helps. So let me give you one use case. So let us assume that whatever transactions are happening today are being stored somewhere down in the system. But there is one specific fintech which works on storing it only on blockchain, and the use cases that we discussed just 5 or 10 minutes before are exactly the replica of what they are trying to achieve with the perfection in terms of non-mutuality, or in terms of non-bifurcation into what is happening on ground versus what's the reality. So these fintechs are the actual growth aggregator of what we are trying to achieve in organizations. You can take any example starting from Paytm or even from UPI. So yesterday I was witnessing one story where we overcrossed our own parameters in terms of UPI payments that were made as a country. So we crossed some good 5 crore of payment in March itself as a nation, and that's something that is driving us as a nation towards technology. I mean, technology is something that was always there in comparison to the time, but the use cases, the understanding and the accessibility to that technology right now, even the people of the villages, since this is COVID era, they want UPI to be there. The problems that we receive on our customer or call centers are majorly the chunk of digital transactions that are happening. So with these problem, there's always a thin line between problem and what good things we can achieve from it. And one thing that is accessibility to digital transactions, and that is only possible because of the ecosystem that these fintechs or ecosystem that we as an organization are open to create. So I think these fintechs are always good to push things which are uh, beyond imagination for few of the organizations.
Okay, great, Utkarsh. So I will come back to Bhaskar sir again. So, sir, please guide our students. Can you name 3 technologies which are a future of this industry? You can say any industry, maybe manufacturing, maybe banking, maybe anything. So 3 technologies which are there to stay. And if students will learn these technologies, definitely they can get a good job in any of these domains. So please.
So instead of naming the technology, I should basically name the areas. I think that would be more relevant, because
that's more relevant.
Domain will basically constitute of a lot of technologies, and so I think absolutely. I mean, if you basically look at it, I think digital is definitely topmost. Digital era, because this is a digital era. If you basically talk about it, it is enabled by the technology and the data science, and the trick of the trade basically realizes on how effectively you are able to kind of leverage digital to the benefit for the benefits of the organization. So now the point is, organization will further benefit to the customers. Customer could be like B2B customer, could be end user like B2C, but at the end of the day, it is an industry which is going to basically be there and will basically kind of continue to be there for many years. The second thing is, second it basically kind of is data science. Again, data science, again, we generally mistake the data science is statistics. No, data science is not statistics. Data science basically includes your data engineering, your statistics, your coding, entire understanding, the business understanding about the end-to-end business cycle. So the entire thing and the understanding, and then applying the right tool. For example, I mean, you basically you have a car, you have a toolkit in your car, and if you have a flat tire, you will not use all the toolkits, right? You will basically use the right toolkit so that you can be repairing your flat tire. Similarly, in an industry, you're a data scientist, you might have all the toolkits with you, but you should know which toolkit to apply. I mean, if you're talking about machine learning, you should know, while classification of the data, what are, some of the technologies you should basically put in so that you should be able to do the right classification. You should be able to put in the right algorithm to, basically do a predictive analytics, so that you should be predicting something which is very near to the reality. So those things are extremely important. So first, as I said, digital. Second, I said, data science. And third, I would say definitely the newest technologies like blockchain, which I think Arjun spoke about. Maybe it has not really taken up in India, but I basically see in European markets, in US market, I think especially in the fintech world, I think blockchain has really doing well. But again, blockchain is a big myth. I think we have to educate our people more about blockchain. And today, blockchain unfortunately is basically kind of handled and practiced amongst very handful group of people. I mean, we have to basically kind of socialize it more, People have to understand it more, and it has to be really linked with, all like digital and digital and data science, so that the data scientists can basically pull in data information, historical information from all those blocks, and should be able to do some kind of analysis further, right? So blockchain shouldn't be basically kind of grown as one standalone area, right? So the right synergy between digital data science, blockchain, innovation, all this will basically, create new landscape of the India, or not India, sorry, for the industry. And there is a famous saying, which Satya Nadella said, that I think he said that the amount of digital innovation which has been done in last 2 months is more than 2 years. I would say it is more than 20 years. Yeah, there were some companies, and who are really the top 100, top 50 companies, Fortune 50 companies of the world. They started this journey about 20 years back, and that's why they are top 50 today. If you have seen that, all the product companies, all the companies who are who are mostly focused on, people, and mostly focused on manual processes, are out of the list. You talk about, Exxon Mobils of the world, you talk about Shells of the world, you talk about, General Electric of the world. I mean, all these people are gone. And who are the top 10, companies today? I mean, they're Microsofts, they're Googles, they are IBMs, they're, all these technology companies. So you can really see the trend, the technology, digital is going to be the key, right? And who are the next companies? They are the companies who are very closer to their customers. The companies who really understand their customers well. It is not about, serving your customer as a king. You need to first understand, and then, make your customers feel special. Everybody in this world, wants to be pampered. That's a universal statement. Be it a customer, be it a client, be it, your professor, be it your manager, and that's the paradigm on which, we need to really, kind of create all our strategies. That how do we, kind of put that spotlight on individual, and make sure that, we should be able to, dissect everything at a record level, and should be able to, pull it out, and should basically look at that information. And today, with the help of technologies, with the help of knowledge, with the help of, the computing speed, I think we have that facility to do that. And I think this is the right time. And, to the previous question, which I think one of the students asked, I think, be agile, be flexible, and change yourself. It is all about, survival of the fittest. Okay. This industry is going to be very, very much competitive. Don't sit back and cry that, I'm not getting a job. I'm telling you, there's abundance of opportunities, there are abundance of jobs, abundance of, opportunities which you can really get. But the point is, you have to basically survive, and you have to basically be the best. If you have that mindset of being mediocre or being the lowest in the pyramid, I'm telling you, you will struggle throughout your life.
That's a great learning for our students. Just one thing I want to ask you more. We are a management college, so definitely a lot of students are from engineering background, but not all. So how can they go in this domain of data science? What are the tools? In fact, we have a full thrust here. We teach them a lot of AI, ML thing, but I want to just hear from you from the industry. What do you require from a management graduate if he wants to go in that data science domain?
See, when we go to most of the campuses, we don't expect that people will be like, expert data scientists. We have a very robust mechanism to, kind of train people and make them data. And again, data scientist is not a thing, you can basically get from day one. I mean, to become a data scientist, you need to, make your, at least, should basically have some gray hair, right? So it takes time. It's basically a journey. And I'm telling you that people with the right background, with a basically analytical mindset, I mean, you could be a graduate in engineering, could be graduate in mathematical sciences, you could be graduate in economics. I think if you have that analytical skill, if you really love numbers, Okay. And as I said, data science is not statistics. Data science is, basically you're right from, coding to data engineering to really making, insights. It is very important. And there are, to be honest, I think one is the academics. The second is there are a lot of material today, available freely on podcast, freely on Google, freely on, some of the courses, which has been offered by, companies like Upgrad, Coursera. Just go through those, real life case studies. See, how people have tackled those problems, and go to GitHub. There is a portal called GitHub. You basically kind of download the data and do some practice. I'm telling you, if you have the basic understanding, you can do well. And for getting into a company, it is all about choosing what you not want to do. Because I remember during my MBA days, we had a craze for sales and marketing jobs. Okay. I think, I was, and I'm not sure whether, I'm basically, I have that privilege to be, student of Professor Virved Ratna. I'm not sure whether he's there in the this, seminar or not. But I think he coached me and he said that don't basically go with the crowd. Try to do something which is very different. And that's why, I, instead of choosing a sales and marketing job, I went to market research, organization. So the point is, follow your passion, whatever you want. If you really want to have a passionate career in data science, don't think about anything else. Just don't think about what is the offer, what is the CTC, just go and learn and then, grow in your career. That's what my advice would be.
Great advice, sir. Naveen sir, again, the same question to you. So what are the 3 technologies definitely which are going to come in next few years, specifically in the retail sector, and how to prepare our students in the same? Naveen ji?
Yeah. I wanted to volunteer. Good that you asked me to speak about this. Rightly said by Mr. Roy about the change of technology or the change of mindset, importantly, more than technology. You see, the retail in last year has undergone a sea change worldwide. Okay? I have no qualms in accepting that all the biggies of Indian retail got napping. The so-called brick and mortar, be it Reliance or be it Tata's or be it Big Bazaar or Future Group, we were all caught napping because we always understood brick and mortar and we never thought that digital can also merge with this brick and mortar or can amalgamate with this. What I see going forward, and this is a worldwide trend, not in India, that it will be a phygital format of retailing, which will be a combination of physical stores and a digital presence also at the same time. So a pure play brick and mortar retail will not work in isolation, or a pure play digital avatar will also not work in isolation. No wonders why Big Basket is merging with Tata. No wonders why Amazon had the big ticket acquisition of Whole Foods in the US, because they see synergies in both the formats, a physical as well as also and a digital also. So for a student to basically carve out his niche in terms of the employability in the market, which is ever changing and very dynamic, that you have to keep your eyes and ears open. So, for example, if I am a hardcore retail specialist, I also need to upgrade myself about supply chain and a digital marketing aspect or a supply chain aspect of including a physical store to last mile connectivity with a customer's household also. If I don't upskill or change my approach, then I'll be extinct like dinosaurs. And this will have a very sweeping effect, not gradually, I would say, but probably next 1 or 2 years. This will consumer, what I said, consumer is king. The consumer will be spoiled for choices, and somebody who's not above the ahead of the curve will be left behind.
Great, sir. Nice view. So, Utkarsh, can you shed some light on this? What are some prominent technologies which are going to help fintech to grow in future, and how can our student go in that direction? Utkarsh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. So yes, apart from blockchain and AI ML, about which already we have spoken a lot, there's something which is very new I mean, though it is there as a technology, but it's very new for BFSI industry, and it's augmented reality. So the possibilities of implementation of augmented reality technology in banking sectors, I mean, still it's an imagination phase, and though it's still on a very early stage, but the end state is to give consumers and customers a complete autonomy in auctions and transactions while sitting at the home. And Citibank's holographic workstation is using AR VR visualization for finance and trading. So this is one, again, I would say one of the very important innovation which is right now into the traction board, where people are trying to use AR VR as a technology to implement something new for the banking industry. And then there is always blockchain and AI, which is there to help and integrate different systems which is already in place in order to make it more secure. The second very important skill set that is required in banking industry is cyber security, having cyber security skill set. I mean, with the increase in digital transactions, and with the increase in digital ecosystem, there is always a threat which is there in terms of cyber increase in cyber crimes and cyber malware attacks and all those things. So cybersecurity is another skill which I would say is not very prevalent and common within the students, but I would recommend it on a high term and high note, that we should always look it as one of the areas to practice on the larger extent. And going back to your question, which you asked just 5 minutes before, that how someone can learn being from a management school, how someone can learn the technologies. So I would like to quote something in just 2 minutes. So whatever we have learned from a linear per se. I mean, we have learned it as a linear process. But the idea is, once it is out, it is forever. I mean, there are hardly any means of iterations or course corrections, or for some sort of skipping areas or recursions. But we need to understand that everything in today's world is gonna be connected with each and other. I mean, there is nothing that will, no one division of business that will work in its isolation. So the model that works for efficiency rather than efficacy is something that I would propose here. And there is generally two type of innovation that we, or practice that we follow. One is type A, I would say, which is error, in which we trial and error method is being done. We try different things and then we fail, we learn from it, and then we retry. The second one is missed innovation. I mean, there is a very famous quote by Bill Gates, which in which he is quoting that missing Android is one of his career's biggest mistake. And that's ironically the second type of errors that people do in industry, that they miss innovation or they miss the technology. They don't foresee the future of that particular technology, and in turns out that that's the only way to contain the future. And some of your partners or some of your competitors have taken it, and now you have to follow the trend. So yeah, that is something that's very beneficial in coming time, I would say.
Great, thanks. And Arjunji, related question to you. Two things, again, two things. Which are the industries in which you can see blockchain coming a lot and changing the face of these industry? And the second, how can our students prepare in that domain of blockchain? So what are the courses, or maybe some use cases, or maybe something like that related to that? So any
Sure, definitely. Let me cover that. So I think number one, I would say definitely finance. That's possibly why that's why a lot of the private equity, venture capital, and also like a lot of the investment banks have picked up blockchain technology first, like JP Morgan, and now of course you have BlackRock, and a few, so some of the other bigger players also jumping into it. So I think finance has some direct applications for blockchain technology, where several processes can be optimized. You can create technology which is again closer to the customer, thereby you reduce a lot of the other middlemen in the process. So for example, simple things like even lending. So even when you look at investment banks and you want to lend to organizations, there are a lot of processes which happen in the middle, where you can get improvements in efficiency. Like for example, simple things like even mobilizing capital, sort of tying up those legal agreements, So, for example, ensuring that efficiently tracking the capital which has been transferred, reports, all of this stuff. This blockchain has direct application there. But the other part, like I said, is within the sort of content creation or entertainment space, right? So, like I said, so NFTs represent an entirely different way of looking at content. So, I think all of your music, artist, or rather, what I say, creator-driven economy, right, which is your Instagram. A lot of the economy which is run through Facebook, which are not necessarily big brands, but what we call like indie brands, like smaller brands, people, mom and pop entrepreneurs who want to like sort of build something of their own. These sort of digital native brands, like all of these would be sort of using blockchain technology. So several like retail brands in the US, some of the ones we haven't heard about, which are local there, have reached out to me to sort of figure out how they can use NFTs to sort of or how they can leverage blockchain technology in general. So I think the two big areas where I see are definitely finance and content creation. Now, of course, blockchain technology, helps in any sort of use case where there are multiple parties involved who need to coordinate and work together. So, like I said, certain business processes, like in manufacturing and supply chain, process. So, sort of any process-heavy kind of industry, you will see, blockchain technology being used in some form or the other. No, of course, and again, it's a technology which is still in its infancy. It's being refined every day, so newer use cases may come out in the future. So of course, those are some of the things which are even outside the bounds of my prediction, even though I sort of sleep, eat, and dream this every day. Now, coming back to the other question which you asked, which I feel is very important for the students, like how do I build a career in blockchain? Like how do I think about some of these things? Now, again, like there are two kinds of careers you can make here. One would be closer to the technology and the other would be closer to the customer, right? It's typically how we generally think about careers these days. Either it's closer to the technology or closer to the customer. So when you talk about something closer to the technology, that's when you need to, so for example, I would start with the fundamentals of blockchain, which is how decentralized and distributed computing works. You don't have to go too much in depth in this. There's several tutorials on YouTube. Like I said, it's distributed and decentralized. So there are no central courses or certifications you need to do. What you really need to do is go on YouTube, read lots of blogs, sort of follow some blockchain sort of developers, sort of like, or rather some of the blockchain founders, like for example, Vitalik Buterin, who's the founder of Ethereum. Follow some of these guys, see some of the things they read about. Vitalik has an amazing blog, which he writes, where he talks deeply about blockchain technology. So those are some of the places where I would start. Those are some of the places where you can learn more about the technology, and then you can maybe look at sort of what the tech stack has to be like, and then sort of go in that direction. And then on the other side, which is closer to the customer, is where you kind of try and figure out how do you sort of solve business problems with that technology, right? So one part is how do you use the technology, which is then you get closer to technology. But when you go closer to the user, you need to figure out how, what are the different business problems you can solve with blockchain. So blockchain is not a sort of a panacea for all different kinds of technology problems. It's very useful in certain scenarios and completely useless in certain scenarios. So it's important you try and understand where it can be used. Like I said, one easy clue is to see where multiple parties need to coordinate and work together. That's where blockchain really shows its worth. When you need to, for example, do things like you want to send money from, let's say, across country, and do those kind of things and bypass all of the different mechanisms in the middle. That's where blockchain again shows its worth, because you're building a trustless society by allowing people to transact, where sort of the trust is sort of maintained by the code or the smart contract versus like some other third party. So this is kind of how I would look at like the two kinds of careers, closer to technology and closer to the users, when you need to like figure out which are the business use cases where you could potentially use a blockchain technology. But of course, there are lots of resources out there. I think when I talk about upskilling in general, at least in sort of computer science kind of fields, basically knowledge is free. Like when I hire, I rarely look at the degree. I really look at things like we were just talking about when I hire people on the technology side, I ask them for their GitHub repo. Like I don't ask them about certifications. I don't really care about that. I said, show me your GitHub repo. I go through their code. Then I ask them, why did you build this? And then really try and understand, have they understood the technology, or is it just some copy paste something there? And then when I try to hire people on the business side, I look at their general understanding of how blockchain technology works and how business works. And there are fundamental understanding. See, technology exists to solve problems, and in business, technology exists to solve business problems. So, do you understand the business problem in the first place, or have you jumped ahead and started talking technology without even understanding what the customer wants? So understanding business, I feel, is more fundamental which if you can do that, if you can just understand basic supply and demand, how customers think, how you can do that, then applying technology to that is, I would still say, a relatively easy process. And why I say that is because business doesn't necessarily change so quickly. The world, the global economics of whatever, all of the different fields we are a part of, all of them still follow basic tenets of supply and demand, or basic economic principles. The technology changes all the time, right? There, earlier, like, there was IT infrastructure, so IT operations was infrastructure driven. Now it is data driven. Tomorrow, God only knows what's going to be. It's going to be driven by what. Today we are doing blockchain. Now we are on the cusp of, figuring out quantum computing. Who knows what that will spawn, and there are other different approaches, optical computing and many other technologies which are going to come out. The technology will keep changing, but the fundamental tenets of economy and fundamental tenets of who we are as human beings and our needs and wants, and of course, like other basic tenets, like we all have to be pampered. Like we all want, like sort of things to be easier for us. Those haven't changed, and neither will they ever change. So if you can understand that, the basic tenets of business, then applying technology to that is easy. So either you understand the technology really well, or you understand the customer really well. And if you know either of these, you can build a very successful career. So this is how I think about it.
So very nice use of that quote. All of us want to pamper, and thanks, Bhaskar sir, for giving that. So so can you tell something, explain something about these smart contracts, and are they useful for rural areas? Like you talked about land records. So is India going to implement this smart contracts and land record in near future? I think some states, Andhra and Telangana, have implemented it. But can we see it implemented nationwide?
Oh, definitely. And I think already moves are being made towards that. So of course, when you operate at a scale of, let's say, there is, like when you talk about scalability, there is, scalability, and then there is India scalability, right? Because when you have 1 billion people, you have to think about technology and all the different problems in between in many different formats, right? I'll give you a simple example. Land records in Telangana are, let's say, many of them are in English, but many of them are in Telugu as well. Like you go to Rajasthan, you have lots of, let's say, Hindi. Let's say you go to Gujarat, there'll be some in Gujarati. So even before you solve the technology problem, right, the data veracity, which you need to solve first before you involve something like blockchain, is the bigger problem. So what I feel with, putting land records on blockchain, I do feel that is going to happen. But getting the land records in shape so that you can put them into blockchain is I feel a very monumental problem, which is much like, people typically don't discuss that and get lost into, it will be on blockchain. Everything will be transparent and clear. How do you get that into the blockchain? Very difficult problem to solve. So this is one, but is it happening? Yes. So in Telangana, the Telangana government has started doing this across some districts. What we've also seen this is in Chhattisgarh. So for example, one of the sort of companies we incubated called Retcons Technology is run by this youngster Ankur, who's been sort of using blockchain technology to record public grievances in Bastar, in some of the districts, Bastar district of Chhattisgarh, which is got a lot of Naxal problems, right? So for example, when villagers would make certain, let's say, public grievances, they would get lost in the noise. So because they're on blockchain and it can never be deleted or removed, now you're forced to pay attention to it. And this is kind of how he's trying to solve that. So it's not just land records, even public grievances. For example, let's say you filed an RTI. Somebody went and deleted database. Now the RTI doesn't exist. So, but if the RTI is on blockchain, you can't delete it. You have to answer that RTI. You can't ignore those kind of things. And because it's on the blockchain, anybody can read it. So the media houses can pick that up and say, how come you haven't answered this question? Like, why is the government not answering certain questions they're supposed to? So these are different places where I can see that. But like I told you, the bigger problem we need to solve is how do you take all of this data, and data is like, we're talking about, and I think Bhaskar sir was talking about that just the data itself, we just talk about data, but you're talking about first collecting the data, then you're talking about sort of cleaning the data, then you're talking about putting that in a format which is easily readable or understandable by many different computing systems, not just today, but maybe in the future as well. And then putting that into the blockchain, that entire data segment is going to be a really tough problem to solve with all the different languages, laws of the land. That, in my opinion, is going to be the blocker. Putting that on the blockchain, that's really the easy part. Like, I can solve that for you. So yeah. So that's kind of how I see public services coming into sort of the blockchain realm.
So you raised a very pertinent question. Are we ready for these type of technology? Bhaskar sir, are we ready for this data analytics on applying machine learning on this data? Is the data clean enough in India specifically on which data we can apply these technologies? And same question I will ask Naveen sir also. Is the data of retail industry ready to be analyzed by machine learning and AI type of concept? Bhaskar sir, first you.
No, I think, if data is clean, then, our jobs will be gone. Okay. So I think, our jobs, data is never structured. Data is, always unstructured. And, with the help of technologies, I think, we are basically gathering a good quality data these days. So I'm a strong believer. If you basically talk about any big corporate today, every company is a technology company. Okay. Think of Facebook, eliminate technology. What is Facebook? Nothing. Talk about Microsoft, eliminate technology, nothing. Talk about Big Bazaar, eliminate technology, nothing. Talk about Walmart, Amazon, every big company, every company in this world is a technology company. So I think these technology companies are really focusing on getting good data. Because I'm telling you that, it's all, if the data quality is not good, then there is a garbage in, garbage out. I mean, you can basically apply all the sophisticated models, sophisticated techniques, but it'll always, basically give you wrong results and will not basically help the business. So I think we still are in a process for some of the companies where we are massaging data, we are cleaning data, we are basically kind of replacing all the missing fields. But good companies, mostly, all top companies of the world, I mean, they basically produce good data, quality data, because they have put the right systems in place. And this has happened over a period of time. This has not happened as of in a day or so. So now the data quality which comes in is much better. And I think straight away, what are, in our world we do, basically we get the data from all the sources, we put it in a data lake, and then data lake automatically kind of basically does the massaging and the cleaning of the data. And then we basically extract data from the lake, and then we start, doing the analysis. So the quality of the data lake is, I mean, the data which is coming in from all these technology companies are a good quality. And I think, that portion, that headache of, statisticians or the data scientists of cleaning data, which used to take months, by the way, has gone. And I think, it's much better, much better with the help of technology and digital.
Naveen, your views on this? Is the data of retail clean? Because I'm talking about retail because a lot of different vendors also comes in your domain, and also you are working on supply chain operations automation. So is the data sufficiently clean so that we can apply these technologies for analysis? Naveen, are you there?
Yes, very much. So you see, in our case, data warehousing and data mining is one of the key parameters for customer connect activities. Just to give you a perspective, before COVID, we have piloted a customer connect activity in one of our zones, and which was a result of a good data mining, which we have done for the last 1.5 years was. With the permit, we have these loyal customers or these regular customers, which do a loyalty program, we enroll them. And we have taken a consent to have their pictures also uploaded into a data warehouse, which enables a store manager, whenever a customer walks into a store, my CCTV camera will analyze and throw data about that customer to my store manager. My store manager, in his mobile, he will receive a one-pager about that customer. When was this customer last visited? What was his bill value? What is the grievances which he registered? Have we resolved it? What he did not buy last time, which he should have bought. Armed with this data, my store manager comes out and greets the customers exactly the way it is mentioned in that one pager. Addressing him by the name, sir, बहुत दिन हो गए, बहुत दिन बाद आए आप, आपको 1 महीना हो गया है. लास्ट टाइम आपने वो जो अपना फीडबैक दिया था वो हमने एड्रेस कर दिया है. इस बार वो आपका जो पसंदीदा ब्रांड है चाय का वो इस बार अवेलेबल है. Imagine this kind of data mining happening, which is individualized to a customer, is a pure customer delight. And this cannot happen on an Excel sheet. which probably some 5 years, 6 years ago, with all the retailers would do it in terms of loyal customer data tracking. The technology or the AI has to function, and that's how we'll be able to delight customers on a very, very individualistic basis.
Great. So nice insight. So now last question, and I will start from Utkarsh because he is from banking sector. So everybody now is thinking about data privacy and data security. So my question is on data privacy and security. We are thinking about a lot of IT and operations, and all the data is now going into cloud. Maybe cloud, maybe with different executive members or executives of the company. Is our data secure? And what are the techniques different companies are following to secure our data? Utkarsh, are you there?
Yeah.
So and then this question is from all the panelists. Sorry, Utkarsh. So I will come back to you all. So first I will start with Utkarsh. Utkarsh, please.
Okay. So to start with, yes, data security or the entire ecosystem security is one of the very important and prominent reason for us in banking sector to work efficiently. And how this is possible, or whether this is possible at all or not, yes, it's definitely possible. And then there are different organizations and different fintechs working on these areas. And then there is always an internal security team which works on this. But how this is possible? It's possible by synchronizing the enterprises among itself. I mean, we understand that as good as our integrations of business units through sharing data, driving integrated decisions, and moving more quickly to solve the escalations would be, the easier it would be for us to work on the connected data sets and enabling a more deeper and sophisticated way via different insights and analytics tools being available. And that is also to enhance in the end, it will help us to enhance the entire security system. So, and then something such as clouds, which provides extreme security standards when it comes to in comparison with on-prem or on cloud comparison. And they always have a track record. I mean, environments can be as secure or more secure than on-premise environments, but if only if it gets implemented correctly with a skilled and trained security trainings at the end of things. So I suppose data security again is a very important factor, and it's doable and achievable being clubbed with a correct skill set and correct tools, especially for the BFSI industry.
Yeah, thanks, Utkarsh, for the update. Now, I will ask the same question to Bhaskar sir. So, Bhaskar sir, any views on that related to data security and privacy?
Yeah, it's extremely important in our industry because we basically work with multiple clients, right? And we basically deal with a lot of sensitive data. So it is very important for basically for us to have a framework or basically ecosystem where we can secure clients' data. So even for somebody who are working in a bank, they have a 3-layer security. I'll basically have a 5-layer security because I have to be more stringent than my customer. And we have basically, I think overall during the last pandemic, whatever people started working from home, I think we have focused more on data security and privacy, those kind of aspects. We basically, we haven't heard about any kind of a such breach during this pandemic time because there are a lot of people who basically were working with a lot of sensitive information. Earlier, the same people used to basically work from offices because the office definitely will have more robust security systems. But even working from home, I think we have been able to take care of. And all of these companies who are basically operating in this kind of a domain are they are basically focusing more on, because this is going to be a big problem. I mean, you talk about data security. I think everyone wants a security. I mean, even your employee, he wants a security that when I come to an office, you need to give me a safe and hygienic workplace so that I don't get infected. So I think the overall our focus on security, both physical security and data security has gone up. This industry is going to basically grow because if you basically have seen, and I think Mr. Utkarsh had spoken about the kind of digital transactions which has basically happened over a period of time. More digital transactions, more people, basically using technology for, all these kind of transactions, will basically create, I mean, there'll always be risk of losing out. So it's very important that we should basically create a robust infrastructure which will basically help us to kind of make sure that we don't face these kind of challenges in the future. And this is in a way, there's a prerequisite to basically move this industry and grow this industry.
Thanks, Bhaskar sir. Naveen ji, what this retail industry is doing to preserve the customers' data, specifically data privacy and security?
We haven't faced such issues. We always capture the phone numbers of all the customers with their prior consent. It is we haven't faced any such issues in terms of data leakage or forwarding them unnecessary messages and all. So it is probably not relevant in the current scenario in retail. Going forward, it might be relevant for a lot of these online companies like Big Basket or Grofers, which are vulnerable. For example, we just had a data leakage of MobiKwik recently. That probably is not a area of concern at a physical retail store.
Thanks, Naveen ji. And now I will ask the same question to Arjun ji. Arjun ji, I know the blockchain is pretty very much secure, but do you see any threats related to data and security and privacy over there, especially in Indian scenarios?
So I think with blockchain technology by design, sort of data leakage or sort of hacks is really kind of, theoretically impossible. I think it only happens in those cases where people's passwords are leaked and those kind of things, and where basic security precautions which should have been followed are not followed. And I think those are some of the areas which need to be strengthened. By the way, I mean, I always feel that whatever technology you come up with has to become idiot-proof. That no matter what happens, the customer has to be protected. Sometimes inadvertently things happen. It's not because the customer is not careful. It's just that something happened, and of course you need to make those technologies that intuitive and that easy to use. And with biometrics, etc., that is becoming truer, where you can unlock things with biometric IDs, and you don't have to remember 5 different passwords. Then you don't have to keep updating them, and then all of those problems go away. Now coming back to privacy, of course, and this is one of the areas which really scares me the most, because I do feel that in our country we don't have very strong data privacy laws. These are some of the things which the policymakers need to be very careful about. Like just now how Naveen ji talked about that a customer coming to the store and then gets greeted by the store owner saying that, hey, now that for me would be equal parts customer delight but also equal parts customer terror, where where you would ask me कि sir आप बहुत दिनों से नहीं आए और आपने चाय नहीं खरीदी. First question really, भाई तू है कौन? पहले ही मुझे ये बताओ before you start asking me what I want to buy. Then how do you know this? Like, you have a one pager on me. What else do you have on me? So those are the questions I would have. But like I said, so some of the laws here have to become really, really strong. And I do feel that once you go into this sort of concept of let's say you go from descriptive analytics, which is maybe your data mining, to predictive analytics, where now you're predicting what I want. I start bombarding you with ads. I feel that this sort of pervasiveness has to somehow go away. So I think there has to be, and of course, you can solve these in simple ways. You don't necessarily need ironclad laws or sort of a non-bailable offense or some sort. What you really need is, like, for example, allow the customer an easy ability to opt out of these sort of data collection things. So I can choose to, sir, can I have your phone number? No, you cannot have my phone number. So it, very, very simple like that. Like, sir, can we have your email address? No, you can't. That shouldn't become an impediment to buying. And those kind of things, and where the user themselves can opt out of these programs, or I can, for example, go to Big Basket, like where I have ordered several times groceries, to go and ask them to delete my data, right? Because this is my data, this is my identity. I should be able to go and ask them and say, delete them, and they should be honor bound to delete it. Just like how we have with GDPR norms, right? Like what we have in Europe, right? We have the GDPR, which has such, like, sort of, you could say, draconian punishments where every organization out of pure fear now has all the different things sorted out, and everybody follows GDPR norms. If the data cannot flow outside the European Union, Singapore is not doing the same thing. So I think some of those data privacy laws have to be taken very, very seriously. And they, like I said, you can solve these problems also in very simple manner. You don't necessarily have to make it complicated. But I feel that this is very important as we move forward, and as we become a more digital nation. Like we talked about UPI payments now, all of that is being tracked. Who's safeguarding that data? Can I request somebody to delete my UPI records? I don't want people to have my payment history, especially after I paid my taxes for a financial year. I should be able to delete it. So those kind of simple mechanisms need to come into place, and I think that will make it like easier for the people who are implementing the technology to sort of solve these problems, but also make it safer for the people and who are interacting with these technologies. And kids these days have a digital identity from day one, right? I got it after a long time, after colleges when I really got into internet. But these days, children from day one have digital identities, and it's for them you need to build these kind of safeguards. So I think that's very important.
Just to add, I mean, there's something that I want to add on what Arjun just suggested in terms of data. So we in India, I mean, we generally follow the Technology Act 2000. Later on, it got amended in 2008, and under 43 and 72 clause. But the problem not lies with the data collection and its use, because that's already listed in the regulatory act. The problem lies in elaborate, and the lack of guidance is more on the data storage techniques and the user consent, as well as the norms to process that particular data. I mean, we don't have something as concrete and as good as GDPR, which is there generally in EU. There is always a scope of doing betterment in terms of Data Privacy Act, which can enable the consumers in the end with their permission to use and access the different sort of data that we are having. And parallelly, we should be very, as an organization, and this is for each and every organization, that should be very upfront and transparent on how in different ways we are going to use that particular data after getting stored, and what are the different ways and mechanism we are going to be tempering with that particular data. So yeah, that was just an add-on in terms of
Thanks, Utkarsh, for the update. And we have with us Dr. Richa, who is from Operations Field. She wants to ask a question. Dr. Richa, over to you.
Sir, I want to ask, what is the possibility of these new technology in the healthcare sector? Because this is my perception that this sector will use any new technology until and unless it has been fully established in the market, because it involves the human beings. So what is your viewpoint? And once upon a time, I got the opportunity to enter in the record section, record room of Sir Sundarlal Hospital in BHU. So what is all about we talk about even any government hospitals, their records, and what is the possibility of technologies over there?
So Bhaskar,
Yes.
please, yeah.
I can take that, but I think, there is a lot of transformation basically happening in the healthcare section. Today, I think the entire digital India, movement of Prime Minister Modi is basically to kind of digitize everything. So they're trying to basically connect everything through digital. I mean, you talk about, healthcare, patient's record to, basically the insurance, to the hospital. If everything is connected the way, it is basically done in US and some of the European countries, it will be very easy for, a physician to basically check everything, your entire history, your probability or of, basically getting a disease, or your, change in the lifestyle, or change in any symptoms. So it will basically improve, and it has really, brought in a transformation in the entire healthcare sector, for the world. And I think that's what, we are also trying to do in India. A lot of big hospitals, a lot of big companies are basically tying up. They are basically doing this, putting all the patients' data into digital form, connecting with the insurance, health insurance policies, and the history, and then basically connecting with the physician, so that we should be keeping all the records at one place. This might take time because it's a large country, and as as we are discussing that variety or the variability of the data is very high, so it will take a long time. Now the second part, their effect on humans, right? When we basically do all this, trials or all this, pharmacovigilance, on the humans. I think, we can, artificial intelligence is something, which really acts as a human intelligence, right? It's a replica of human intelligence. So, the best part, we can basically do all these trials with the help of, artificial intelligence, and we should reduce the side effect of it. I mean, just think of how this corona vaccine came in a record time, because all these trials and all this research and all this permutation combinations of this failure mode analysis, everything was basically done using artificial intelligence and creating environment which is basically a very similar to a human environment, right? And then it basically came in within a span of 3-4 months, and now most of the countries have started getting vaccinated. So this will basically bring a revolution, I guess. Healthcare is very important because it saves life. It is extremely important. As a country, I don't think we are up there compared to some of the other countries. And I think this pandemic is a big eye opener. This will basically help us to expedite the entire process, of bringing in transformation and innovation. So my take is healthcare, and is healthcare is an area which is going to grow big time, and we should basically use these technologies, in the coming future.
Thanks, sir, and thanks to all the panelists. It was very insightful for me personally. I learned a lot today, and I think students have also got a lot of learnings today. And thanks, Anupam sir, for this eminent panel. I have seen that there is a person from blockchain, a person from design thinking, sir is from digital transformation, and one person from supply chain automation. So very nice mix, sir. And that's a very great idea. And sir, thanks for making me moderator. I've learned a lot today. Now over to you, sir. I think now it's time to go to the next process. So please.
Thank you so much, sir, for all the valuable insights. Now, there were some competitions held for the purpose of IT and operations conclave. Competitions like poster making, presentation, and quiz competition, where we had many participants. Here are the winners of the events. So here are the winners of poster making competition. The first prize goes to Ananya Ghosh. The second prize goes to Pooja Singh. And the third prize goes to NITIE Singh. And here are also the top 5 posters attached with this presentation. So moving on the next slide. Here are the winners of quiz competition. First prize goes to Bulbul Singh. Second prize goes to Radhika Agarwal. Third prize goes to Rishika Sahai and Utkarsh Mishra.
Do we have the same Utkarsh Mishra?
They are different Utkarsh Mishra.
Here are the winners of presentation competition, and the winners are Nidhi Singh and Vikrant Singh.
Congratulations.
Now, it's time to announce the winners of quizzes which held on the Moodle. So the winner of quiz 1 is, the first prize goes to Utkarsh Mishra, second prize goes to Amitanshu Anand. Winners of quiz 2, first prize goes to Sandipan Bhur, second prize goes to Shubham Kumar Saurav. And the winners of last quiz and the third quizzes. First prize goes to Varsha Keshri and second prize goes to Akshay Gatani. And all the winners.
Congratulations, congratulations.
And all the winners will be provided with Amazon vouchers.
I'd now like to invite Dr. Preetam Suman, Area Chair IT, to present the key takeaways from the session and propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ria. First of all, congratulations to all the winners. Distinguished guest, Director Professor Kavita Pathak, distinguished invitees, delegates and members of Jaipuria fraternity. This brings us to the end of IT and Operation Conclave, creating and sustaining ITOA. It is indeed a great honor and privilege to propose vote of thanks on this occasion. This event would not have been successful without the presence of you all. On behalf of IT and Operation Area, I take this opportunity to thank our chief guest, Professor Manoj Tiwari, whose speech added a new dimension to this conclave and has been very inspiring for the audience. Thank you, sir. The keynote speech by Mr. Rajan Bhandariwho was inspirational and thought-provoking for all our young and budding managers. Thank you, sir. I'm grateful to all the panelists, Mr. Naveen Singh, Mr. Bhaskar Roy, Mr. Utkarsh Mishra, and Mr. Arjun Krishan Kalsy, for discussing and keeping their point of view, which fulfilled the purpose of this conclave and helped us demystify some myths about creating and sustaining ITOA age. Thus, we all are inspired by your inside view. I express my heartfelt gratitude to our director, Professor Kavita Pathak, for relentless encouragement and inspiration in providing us exposure to multifaceted platform for being a pillar of support and guidance. I would like to extend a special thanks to our conclave associate, Small Industries and Manufacturer Association, SIMA. The presence of participants, delegates, students, faculty member, and staff members have added momentum to this event. Thank you all for your presence and participation. I'm sure that you have been able to take some valuable learning from this event. I would also like to thank Mr. Amitabhji for providing IT support for this conclave. Last but not the least, the student volunteers deserve a special mention for all the efforts they have undertaken in conducting this event. Thank you all and best wishes.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, with this, we come to the end of this panel discussion. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Looking forward to meeting you all soon.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Bhaskar, sir. Thanks, Naveen. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.